I hope so far so good for you. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Olo. The examination coming to an end today, that is KBC, and the grade 6 students doing their final papers today. The pioneer class of the KBC. Let's wait and see how they'll perform, as that will be used as a benchmark on how the KBC and the rest of the curriculum will be rolled out in the coming next year's education calendar. All right, so today we'll be talking about matters Hustlers Fund, which will be launched later by the President today at the Green Park here in Nairobi, and any other thing that has made the headlines throughout the week. We are also waiting to see how it's going to pan out. We have word that MCAs at the Meru County Assembly are mulling a plan to impeach Governor Kawira Mwangaza. If that happens, then it means that they'll have to forward the rest to the Senate for the next process. How is that going to be? That will be on our subsequent bulletins throughout the day. Meanwhile, welcome to the program. My name is Victor Olo. Steph, good morning.
Good morning, Victor, and good morning to our viewer. It's 30th of November. We are closing the month, and on a high note, because today the Hustler Fund is being launched. So it's a good place to start, because now the SMEs are now at a place where they can borrow loans and get an 8% interest, because 50 billion has been allocated to this fund. So it's good news for those of you who want to get some loans to start off your businesses. And what's going on also in matters in the dailies is that thousands are to lose jobs. Specifically, the bar owners are saying that nearly 23,000 staff will have to be sent home because of the ongoing crackdown of bars in residential areas in Nairobi. Apart from this, we have so many stories coming your way in the newspaper reviews. My name is Stephanie Yetta. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Doreen.
I mean, there's really quite a lot happening in the country today. All talked about the Hustlers Fund. Also, Justice Nderi just gave a green light to the National Assembly, of course, the various committee. This is in regard to the vetting of the principal secretaries that was halted on the 15th of October. That process had been set to be running between 14th and 18th, but on the second day, it was halted based on what the Law Society of Kenya had filed as a petition that the executive of the president didn't really quite meet the constitutional threshold of regional balance. Issues of gender imbalance had also been proffered in that particular petition. However, the High Court said that it was really quite premature to even file a petition at that time, to wait until the process is complete. Then they might just, file that particular petition. Around 29 or so principal secretaries had been vetted. So today they recommence that particular process, and we wait to see how all this will pan out. This is even as the position of CAS still remains in a pickle to see how that will, move as we move forward at the end of the day. That and so much more is also what we are following up for you. Quite a lot equally in store for you this Wednesday morning. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okello. Good morning, Ray.
The dawn of the Hustler Fund will start today after the president fully launches that particular kitty that is expected to allow, or rather create, a platform where a line of credit will be extended to MSMEs to leapfrog them when it comes to matters of economy. But how will this be done? Does Treasury have the 50 billion that is expected to be set aside? How will this then affect the budget making process for the financial year 2023-2024? This is among the issues we're going to be looking at as we look at the ripple effect of the would-be Hustler Fund that is going to be launched by the president, which was part of his campaign promise to Kenyans. Further on what is happening across the globe is that USA as well as Senegal made it through to the knockout stages, and I know Chelsea fans are happy after Pulisic there. Pulisic made that particular goal there, and Senegal there did Africa proud there. The Teranga Lions of Senegal did roar. Now they carry the hopes of Africa with them during this Qatari World Cup. And Qatar, the hosts, after 3 defeats, are out. So safe to say the team is home while home. They went home, but they're home.
Literally.
Yes, then when talking about matters entertainment, to some news, especially to patrons who, like visiting some of the nightclubs across the country, some of them are going to be closing down. Why? And this is if they do not adhere to the laid down guidelines when it comes to the issues of soundproof, just to name but a few. Actually, the loudest club in the city, I don't know if my colleagues know, which is the loudest club in the city? Nairobi City, to be precise. Take a wild guess.
In the CBD?
Yes. In Nairobi and its environs.
In Nairobi and its environs, yes. Or in the CBD?
Yes. Which is the loudest?
1824?
1824. Langata Road. Victor, what do you think is the loudest club?
Just a guess.
Just guess. None. No idea.
I was about to say 1824.
1824. Well, you're not so far off, but now, according to a report by the Nairobi County and Directorate of Environment. So, Egesa in Embakasi happens to be the loudest club that is playing music at 89.4 decibels. It is followed by Quiver on Thika Road and 1824 along Langata Road, both playing at music at 85.5 decibels. Also, Kilimani and its environs have not been left out in this particular report. We have clubs such as Awnings, Red House, Cigars and Booze, City Ranch, Gucci Bar, Amazon Park, Clicks, Oaks and Quarks, and several other Mira kiosks. Now, in 2018, the High Court ruled that it was illegal for bars to operate near schools and residential areas. Some weeks back, we had a trending topic, especially on social media, in regard to noise pollution within the residential area, and now this is a result of so many years and so many complaints that have gone into this. We hope that the said, or rather the named joints they are given, that they employ quite a huge number of Kenyans, are going to adhere to the rules before closure, as mentioned in this report. This and so much more is going to be coming up in not too long as we look at those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Good morning once again. I am Regina Manyara. In not too long, we're going to be focusing on news. We take a quick breather. You are watching In the Headlines, and I am Regina Manyara. Now we start off with matters of national examinations, where President William Ruto has assured candidates of their security during the national examination period. The president urged the multi-agency team supervising the exercise to ensure the examinations are administered in a secure environment with no distractions for the candidates.
Day 2 of the ongoing Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Primary School Examination Assessment for Grade 6. President William Ruto was at Joseph Kang'ethe Primary School in Kibra constituency in Nairobi County to witness the administration of the exam papers.
Kila mwanafunzi apatiwe nafasi ya kufanya mtihani katika mazingira tulivu na mazingira yenye iko na amani. Na ndio sababu tumemobilize askari wengi kuhakikisha kwamba mambo ya mitihani inaendelea vizuri.
The head of state assuring the government has put in place mechanisms to ensure a smooth transition for grade 6 learners.
We will be agreeing on how to transit into the next level. A decision is going to be made in the very short term, so that you can know next year, especially for those who are in grade 6 and grade 7.
These young ones have got a source of great inspiration from you, because when they look at your background and your history, Your Excellency, the way you started, it was in an ordinary school.
At the same time, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was at Komarok Primary School in Nairobi County, where he promised the Kenya Kwanza administration will prioritize delocalization of teachers in the ongoing education reforms.
He agreed that the process of delocalization should be done away with so that teachers are able to work anywhere without being coerced to work in certain areas.
Because you have worked hard with the guidance of your teachers.
Meanwhile, Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi witnessed the exam materials distribution at Kilimani Primary School in Dagoretti North constituency, also in Nairobi, where he appreciated the efforts by teachers and officials from the Kenya National Examinations Council.
Wako tayari kabisa, wamejipanga na tunawatakia heri kwa hii shule na kwa mashule zote katika taifa letu.
On Tuesday, candidates sat the Science, Kiswahili and Insha papers. Thursday is the last day of the examinations, and it will see social studies and religious education papers being administered. Ruth Wamboy for Good Morning Kenya.
Indeed, our reporters will continue keeping tabs on what is happening as far as the national examinations, as we, as a corporation and a team here of Good Morning Kenya, continue wishing all the pupils and candidates all the best in their ongoing exams. Now, still keeping up with matters of national examinations is that grade 6 candidates in Kajiado Central Sub-County gave birth on a day 2 of the ongoing national examinations, while 2 other candidates are admitted in a Kajiado health facility after they went into labor while writing their national examinations. In Homa Bay, a Form 4 candidate died in what the family has blamed on as taken as medical negligence. Irene Mchuma Odim reports.
Homa Bay County Teaching and Referral Hospital is on the spot after a Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE candidate allegedly died after undergoing an operation at the facility. The family of the late Velma Anita Ochieng alleges that she was admitted to the hospital on Saturday in good health to welcome a newborn.
Huyu mtoto wetu wanalia tu, anatembea tu na magoti yake kwa simiti, kwa varanda, mtoto analia, alafu wakaingia kwa singizi. Tunaenda tunaamusha, hawezi kuamuka. Wanasema sisi tunamsumbua.
Homa Bay County Teaching and Referral Hospital Chief Executive Officer Peter Ogola has however refuted the claims, saying the deceased underwent a successful surgery before she passed on.
The patient was taken to theater at 2:30 a.m. Okay? The patient was... the baby was removed successfully, a live baby. The mother was... The operation, according to the notes that I'm seeing, the doctor, the operation was successful and the mother and the baby were taken back to them.
Meanwhile, 2 pupils from separate schools in Butere, Kakamega County have failed to sit for this year's Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations after their names went missing on the register.
Anzia class nursery paka class 8. Mtoto alijiregister mtihani wa class 8. Nikimtoa hapo juu hakuwa anaelewa chenye anafanya, nikaamua at least mtoto wangu niende nimpost marks yake, nikapeleka mtoto Mentor Academy. Sasa mtoto amesomea Mentor Academy kuanzia term 2.
The pupils from Lunza Primary School and Shirembe Primary School have expressed disappointment, saying they had prepared for this year's national examinations.
Nilikuwa nimeprepare, niko ready kufanya hiyo mtihani, lakini sasa niko shocked, hata sijui nitafanya nini.
Still in Kakamega, a 14-year-old candidate from Bumamu Primary School is sitting for her KCP examinations from a hospital bed after she gave birth to a baby boy.
Mtihani imeanza vizuri, security arrangements na kila kitu iko sawa. We have had few challenges kidogo, mwanafunzi kujifungua na anafanyia katika hospitali. So far so good, hakuna changamoto kubwa sana ambayo tumepata.
In retrospect, or rather hindsight, I hope that next year when we're talking about the national examinations, we'll not be reporting on the students and pupils who either die while delivering babies or are sitting the examinations from the comfort of a hospital bed, courtesy of teenage pregnancies. This is something that needs to be arrested. How about we thought about, putting or rather bringing to book those who actually impregnate children? Food for thought. Now, the High Court in Nairobi has allowed the National Assembly to proceed with the vetting of 51 principal secretary nominees as proposed by President William Ruto. Justice Nduma Nderi ruled that the petition challenging the process was prematurely filed, adding that Parliament ought to be allowed to complete the process before any party can file a petition. On November 15th this year, the High Court temporarily stopped the vetting of the nominees and was to conclude on November 18th, following a suit by the Law Society of Kenya. LSK had argued that the president had not factored in gender equity and regional balance in the nominations. Through their lawyers, LSK said the 2/3 gender rule, persons with disability and the youth had been left out. Now, still at the courts, a suspect arrested by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission on accusation of impersonation has opposed an application filed by the prosecutors seeking to detain him for a period of 14 days to allow investigations be concluded. Through his lawyer, Gishia Kamau, the suspect Ibrahim Gamau Wangari told trial magistrate Robinson Ondiek that the investigating officer had not disclosed to the court the reasons why he wanted him to remain in custody. Ibrahim was arrested on Friday, November the 25th, for impersonating an EACC officer and demanding bribes from civilians. The court will deliver the ruling on the objections raised by the defense team tomorrow, December the 1st. Now, experts are raising concern over depleting groundwater levels, deterioration in the water quality and degradation of groundwater-dependent ecosystems. This, they say, has affected countries in the Nile Basin that have shared groundwater bodies, hence the need for action so as to monitor groundwater recharge, abstraction and quality of sustainable management.
Groundwater use pattern is rapidly changing from non-commercial use to commercial purposes, such as farming, mining, industries, among others. However, depleting groundwater levels, deterioration in water quality and degradation of groundwater-dependent ecosystems is a cause for concern. 5 representatives from the Nile Basin, including Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania and Uganda, that have shared groundwater bodies such as Kagera and Mount Elgon, are seeking to address these by enhancing conjunctive management of surface and groundwater resources for sustainable use.
You cannot have surface water unless you have robust groundwater resources, because it is the groundwater that feeds into surface water through streams, through the lakes and others. And in order for you to have to manage well groundwater, you need to understand what it is, you need to know how much water you have, you need to understand the drivers that are likely to cause destruction of this water.
Countries have never put much emphasis on groundwater because groundwater is invisible. And our purpose is to support countries to complement. And the trend of impact of climate change on groundwater, drought and other things. But we would like to see how the aquifers can help those countries to complement the surface water.
The countries are currently engaged in a 5-year pilot transboundary water project that is funded by United Nations Development Programme, with member countries set to contribute a total of $27.8 million.
We will be able to manage the catchment. If we don't discuss together with Uganda, they can implement some adverse activities on the catchment area, which will impact on the use of these same resources on our countries. So when we sit together and reason together, we will propose activities from both sides of the divide that doesn't compromise on the use of these resources for either of our countries.
The aim of the project is to fill an information gap about the role of groundwater and its contribution to water balances in lakes, rivers and wetlands in the Nile Basin.
That takes us to matters business, where the Kenya National Trading Corporation has refuted claims that it has imported genetically modified maize. KNTC says it does not have the financial muscle, with only 600 million shillings in its accounts. KNTC Managing Director Pamela Mutua has told the National Assembly that the 600 million shillings are earmarked for the purchase of rice from local farmers.
The corporation says it has no role in the importation of the 10 million bags of BT maize, adding that its funds are not sufficient enough to import maize.
We've never imported maize, or we've not imported anything in our business so far. We are dealing locally.
KNTC Managing Director Pamela Mutua further says it's yet to receive a directive from the government to purchase maize to stabilize flour prices.
And as I've said, because it was not in my purview within the organization, we've not even had a sitting as management to deliberate on the same, or even with our board to have discussions on the maize importation or the GMO.
There has been an uproar in the last month after the government lifted a 10-year ban on the import and cultivation of GMO products in Kenya. Mutua says KNTC will only purchase BT maize once it concludes its consultation with other stakeholders.
Everybody has a right to make a choice. We need to give the pros and the cons, and then people can make a wise decision. I think what we need to do is perhaps structure the conversation differently rather than just talk about GMO.
Yesterday, a high court in Nairobi barred the government from importing and distributing GMO maize in Kenya until a case filed by a lobby group called Kenya Peasant Farmers Group is heard and determined. The case will come up for mention on the 15th of December 2022.
Now you will access affordable and reliable, energy-efficient, improved cooking stoves within your ward through a USDD code provided by Clean Cooking Association of Kenya. Energy Principal Secretary Gordon Halangwa says the government targets 100% clean cooking fuel use by the year 2028, and such projects will push up the number of Kenyans in rural areas using unsafe cooking fuels from the current 58%.
The Clean Cooking Association of Kenya, in collaboration with the Minister of Energy and sector players, have developed unstructured supplementary service data. That's the USSD platform that will be instrumental in linking promoters of clean cooking solutions, entrepreneurs, and end users, that is the household, seeking these solutions within the prescribed regions using the dubbed USSD code. The variety of the services to be accessed via this platform will be widened over time to include more varieties. The services can be accessed via all the mobile networks, that is of course Safaricom, Airtel, and of course Telecom.
Clean cooking technologies are available in quite a wide range, as you've probably seen the ones that are being displayed here, from the basic biomass cook stoves that are using either firewood to charcoal, to much more advanced biomass, still using firewood or charcoal, but which are cleaner, and then to the clean cooking fuels like especially the gaseous or the liquid fuels like bioethanol and biogas, and ultimately electric cooking. We would eventually like to see people adopting electric cooking as a way of life.
Over 59% of our population is relying on traditional cooking methods like the three-stone fireplace, and that reliance on the solid biomass and the three-stone fireplace and improved technologies is something that is causing harm to their health.
Now, Housing Finance Group returned to profitability after reporting 77.3 million shillings in Q3 pre-tax profit, up from a pre-tax loss of 525.4 million shillings registered during a similar period last year. The firm says the profit was powered by a double-digit growth in total operating income and a lower total cost.
During the first 9 months of this year, Housing Finance Group registered a 27% growth in total operating income and 2.33 billion shillings. The firm booked a 14% increase in net interest income to 1.57 billion shillings and a 66% growth in non-funded income that hit 753 million shillings. In non-funded income that hit 753 million shillings, Housing Finance Group says interest on government securities rose 44% to 691 million shillings. On the other hand, total expenses remained high at 2.25 billion shillings, representing a reduction of 5%. This helped the firm register pre-tax profit of 77.3 million shillings, up from a pre-tax loss of 525.4 million shillings during a similar period last. The growth was attributed to a double-digit revenue growth driven by accelerated lending, especially to the small and medium enterprises. During the period, revenue grew by 22% to 33.5 billion shillings. Absa Bank interim CEO Yusuf Omari says results project the entrepreneurial spirit of Kenyans, with the bank committing to continue providing them with the necessary financial and non-financial resources required for their businesses to thrive. Non-funded income grew 16% to 10.2 billion shillings. Net interest income was up 25% to 23.3 billion shillings, while non-interest income within the period was up 16% to 10.2 billion shillings. Under the review period, non-performing loans ratio stood at 6.9%.
Now to aqua farming from Martis Financial, where fish farming in Kenya is headed for a major turnaround once the 2.5 billion shillings Kabonyo Fish Project in Kisumu County is completed. The project, which was approved by the cabinet early this month, is set to increase the distribution of fingerlings by 7 million annually. The project will also facilitate training, research, innovation, and best practice in fisheries and aquaculture through demonstrations and incubation.
The corporation says it has no role in the importation of the 10 million bags of BT maize, adding that its funds are not sufficient enough to import maize.
We've never imported maize, or we've not imported anything in our business so far. We are dealing locally.
KNTC Managing Director Pamela Mutua further says it's yet to receive a directive from the government to purchase maize to stabilize flour prices.
And as I've said, because it was not in my purview within the organization, we've not even had a sitting as management to deliberate on the same, or even with our board to have discussions on the maize importation or the GMO.
There has been an uproar in the last month after the government lifted a 10-year ban on the
Well, apologies for that mix-up. Indeed, that was not matters of aquaculture, but that was just a retake of what was happening yesterday after KNTC had to face an inquiry, so to speak, from the National Assembly in regard to the importation of the GMO maize that has caused quite a stir in the country. Remember, further details in regard to stories that have been making headlines in matters business as well as politics are available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Now we cross over to sports, where tennis star Angela Okutoi has been named among the nominees for the Sports Personality of the Year Awards. Okutoi will battle it out with Faith Kipyegon, Mary Mora, Beatrice Chebet, Sharon Chepchumba and Naomi Wafula, among others, for the 2022 Sawyer Sportswoman of the Year Award. The 90th edition of the Sports Personality of the Year Awards Gala will be held at the Kenyatta International Convention Center on the 20th of January 2023.
The Sawyer Gala returns to Nairobi after being held in Kakamega, Naivasha and Mombasa in the last 4 editions. The Sawyer Awards has 11 categories, including a return of the schools categories, which missed during the last gala due to COVID-19 pandemic. Tennis star Angela Okitoi is among the nominees, battling out with Faith Kipyegon, Mary Moraa, Beatrice Chebet, Sharon Chepchumba, and Naomi Wafula, among others, for the 2022 Soya Sportswoman of the Year award. Okitoi had an outstanding 2022, but will have to be pitted against some world champions of the track and also from volleyball, basketball, and boxing. Tennis sensation made history by becoming the first ever Kenyan to win a Grand Slam following a girls' double victory at the Wimbledon tournament alongside Dutch partner Rosemary. On the other hand, Beatrice Chebet won silver in the 5,000 meters race at the World Championships in Oregon before crowning it all with gold at the Commonwealth Games held in Birmingham and a Diamond League trophy. Volleyball star Sharon Chepchumba will opt to break the dominance of the track stars and also beat Okitoi to the top prize. The 19th edition of the Sports Personality of the Year Award Gala will be held at the Kenyatta International Convention Center on the 20th of January 2023.
The World Cup is ongoing, and yesterday we were treated to at least some reprieve as Africa, so to speak, and this is after Teranga Lions of Senegal sailed through to the knockout stages there, and we also have the United States there also sailing through the knockout stages. And just to give you a recap of yesterday's results is that we had Ecuador take on Senegal, and Senegal carried the day, scoring 2 against Ecuador's solitary goal there. We also had the Netherlands thrash host Qatar 2-0, and Qatar, which is a host, actually having to vacate the games after 3 resounding defeats. Yes. In Group B, we had Wales taking on England there, and England carried the day there, scoring 3 against 0 for Wales, and Iran also squaring it out with the United States of America there and scoring 1 against the Islamic Republic of Iran, so to speak. So today's matches, how are we looking at? Or rather, what are we looking at in as far as the World Cup is concerned? We have Australia squaring it out with Denmark at 6 p.m. Tunisia is going to square it out with France, who are the defending champs, at 6 p.m. We have Poland squaring it out with Messi's Argentina there, as well as Saudi Arabia taking on Mexico at 10 p.m. KBC Channel 1 is going to be televising the match between the defending champs, France and Tunisia, at 6 p.m. So set the date. For now, we take a quick breather. We'll be back with the dailies.
Good save by Lawrence Atisigi.
That's the first time he's been tested. It's good. Good save.
He's been called to duty. He hasn't disappointed to take that one out from Chu Kyung-soo.
A very good cross, and of course Atisigi has done so well by this save. I mean, he's done so well. It is the first time he was tested. I mean, it's very good.
Position yourself. So already solid 4 that has been caught by Lawrence Atisigi, but there's also Lamptey down there. It's quite a distance in terms of where it's going to be taken. And good save by Atisigi. Did not look dangerous. But work had to be done.
Well kicked, well taken, and Atisigi was there. And when he's done well, it could have been a goal. Yeah.
Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu.
What did you just say? Sio tamthilia tu.
And why you're saying that
ni tamthilia tosha.
Alinishika hivi. What?
Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Kabisa kama uelewi kitu inafaa uelewe.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji Kenya.
All right, let's have a quick look at the newspapers here. The Star newspaper, Raila Central Pillars shifting to Gachagua. Raila Central Pillars shifting to Gachagua. None of the elected Jubilee MPs attended Azimio meeting. It's also said that because of this mass exodus, Kioni admits that many Jubilee members have their feet in UDA. That is the main read here, which is also fleshed out for you on page 4 and 5. PS Korir tore my dress and beat me up over food. Wife tells court. Devolution PS Julius Korir returned home hungry and beat up his wife after he found no food ready. A court heard yesterday the PS Korir's estranged wife Evelyn Koech told the court that he tore her dress and beat her up while she was naked in front of their child. She also told the court that she was heavily pregnant with their second child at the time and delivered 3 days later. Regulator now recalls all ARVs from Kikuyu-based maker to avoid confusion. Details shortly. Raila to lead Azimio supporters in parallel rally on Jamhuri Day. The reason why that is happening is that the rally on December 12th is meant to counter the national feat to be led by President William Ruto as part of what Azimio chief Raila Odinga and his team said is quote-unquote dictatorship of a failing regime. The decision to have a parallel Jamhuri Day celebration was made on Tuesday during the joint coalition meeting at SKM Command Center in Karen. There's a story there which says Raila's Mount Kenya pillars signal shift to DP Gachagua. It's an analysis of that particular story and what you need to understand and who supported Raila during the 2022 general election and why the allegiance is now shifting towards Gachagua. Take a deep read on that. Ministry recalls all ARVs by factory in Kikuyu town. A story says that the Ministry of Health has recalled all ARVs made by Universal Corporation Limited from the Kenyan market. The drugs are manufactured in Kikuyu town at UCL's factory, the only Kenyan factory pre-qualified by the World Health Organization to make ARVs. The government has previously flagged only 14 batches with bottles that had faulty packaging and stained tablets. This is a serious case. as far as health matters is concerned. You can take a look at the story as well. Alarm as drought pushes wild animals onto highways, and now it is a serious threat to motorists using the Nairobi-Nakuru highway, who are now warned to be wary of roaming wildlife. Most at times you will see them crossing the road in that particular region. Azimio, why IBC forced nabbed ouster hearings? The story says that the commissioners generally say that the poll agency commissioners feel process has a predetermined outcome. After President Ruto's tweet, the commissioners generally held that they would only participate in the hearings if their preliminary objections to the probe were fully addressed. Of course, it's also expected that a report will be tabled in Parliament tomorrow. KEMSA on the spot over expired stocks. You can also look at that. Auditor General says that state medical supplier breached procurement law, irregularly hired excess staff. So that is part of what is happening on the Star newspaper. Steph, what do you have?
Yes, on People Daily there is a lot going on the front page. Diecast for IEBC chiefs in probe. And it goes on to say that the Justice and Legal Affairs team vows to go ahead and write final report to Parliament by the deadline, which is tomorrow. Of course, despite the 4 commissioners snubbing to attend the hearing and citing absence of a fair trial. So this committee will table the report tomorrow in Parliament, and then we wait to see what will happen after that. Still on the front page, thousands to lose jobs in crackdown. And bar owners are saying that nearly 23,000 will be losing jobs because of this crackdown, and they're comparing it to the times during the COVID-19 period where there was the curfew, and they're saying that it would affect between 400 and 500 establishments, with each employing between 30 and 70 permanent workers. So this will be the effects of the ongoing crackdown on bars and entertainment joints in residential areas. Another news making headlines in the front page is why Raila called off tomorrow's city rallies. This is the Azimio leader. They had planned out rallies starting from tomorrow across the country, and they were to start in Nairobi to protest against the probing of the 4 IEBC commissioners. And yesterday, the Azimio leaders met and decided that they will postpone this, citing the ongoing examinations, saying that the learners, need time to go to finish the examinations. And this follows this suspension came as Nairobi Business Community asked the opposition leaders to desist from protests, claiming that they can lead to violence and destruction. So that's a shift there from what was going to happen. Another story on the front page, another story still in this paper, Life and Times of Ezekiel, the pastor who fills up stadiums. If you saw a video on the internet, it has been going round where Pastor Ezekiel filled a stadium, and this was more than what we were actually seeing during the campaigns. And this just got to people, and people are wondering, so who exactly is this pastor? And this particular daily has given a brief story of his history and his journey. So basically, he has had a bumpy ride, coming as a fisherman starting off as a fisherman in Kisumu, to a casual laborer in construction site and a hawker in Mombasa. Then he firmly heeded to a call to spread the gospel. Later on, he moved from Shanzu to Mavueni in Kilifi County, and just by this shift he has caused the small shopping center that is in Mavueni, popularly known for roasted cashew nuts and peanuts. It has now flourished into a 24-hour economy thanks to Odero's New Life Prayer Church there. And remarks of the DP's wife, that is Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, he says that she was in attendance. She stated that Kenyans are starving for the word of God. And finally, on a story that Victor has also touched on, PS battered me for 3 days before labor, claims wife. This is the estranged wife of the principal secretary nominee of cabinet affairs. She was testifying yesterday in a case where Korir is charged with assaulting her on September 17th in Karen. And the court had that the accused, who was then the devolution PS, would call colleagues and pastors to broker a truce whenever he assaulted the complainant. So this is on gender-based violence, something that is very common nowadays, and with the ongoing 16 days of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Today we'll be also talking to a lady who deals with women who come out from prison, ex-convicts from prison, who are usually there out of a history of gender-based violence, and they find themselves in prison. So we want to establish what are the causes of this gender-based violence and why are not they addressed in time so that to avoid such situations. This is a conversation that will be coming up, and those are some of the stories making news in People's Daily. Doreen.
The Hustler Fund is finally here. That is what you're waking up to this Wednesday on the Daily Nation. We have talked about this. This is also simply because this Financial Inclusion Fund, popularly known as Hustler Fund, is being launched today. This is at the Green Park terminus, and I can tell you for sure there are so many questions than there is answers, in particular in respect to this fund. Just going by what the Daily Nation has highlighted is the issue of the 8% prorated interest. You can remember in the campaign trail, the president then, as deputy president, had talked about it being zero interest rate. So how then is it, or better still, how then have they come up with this particular 8%, and what really do Kenyans are saying about this? Also, the 50 billion amount of money in which the fund targeting small businesses, this could be either revised upwards or downwards. This is following what the Treasury CS just said 2 days back, that he has lifted that particular cap, and so this remains with the National Assembly to perhaps either bring it up or bring it down. So 50 billion, as it were, in the regulation has been done away with respect to the ceiling of this particular fund. And also this is a fund that is going to cater for about 8 million Kenyans who had been blacklisted. So then they also have put down directives and measures as to how you can be eligible for this particular fund. Also the 100 million upper limit of annual turnover of businesses to benefit from this fund. So it simply means that if you have a business of 100 million and below, that is also how you can benefit for this in this particular fund. So there's quite a lot that has been highlighted. This story has been tucked away in from page 7 all the way through page 9 of this particular daily, just talking about this fund. Away from that, inside Raila's plan to check Kenya Kwanza's excesses, you can remember that those particular rallies are set to begin today in Kamukunji and move to counties of Mombasa and Nairobi, but that was put on a halt following that particular parliamentary group meeting that Azimio held yesterday. And so they said that the rallies, I should say, will begin on 7th of December, and they say that the reason as to why they halted is because of the ongoing exams. So we wait to see how all this will pan out. There's been really quite concerns, I should say, that have come from this particular faction. Issues of GMOs, high cost of living, still on the high, IBC with the 4 commissioners as well. So quite a raft of issues that they have raised so far since this government took office. And equally, win for maize farmers. This is even as cabinet now pushes the imports to next year. This is to give local produce priority. This had been a matter that also the courts pronounced themselves on, whereby they had halted the importation of the GM maize and also had directed that if at all there was any maize that had been imported, then there shouldn't be any distribution. Now it looks like Cabinet is speaking in one voice, whereby they've now pushed this particular imports up until next year, because also there had been concerns in respect to the produce or the maize that our own farmers grow in the country. So they say that they'll give priority to our farmers before then they can perhaps begin even distributing the maize that has already been imported. And also we know that vetting of the principal secretaries recommences again today. This is following that directive from the High Court yesterday, terming that particular petition premature. This is a process that had been halted on the 15th of October, and so far about 29 PSs had already been vetted. So this is recommencing again today to continue on that particular process of the remaining principal secretaries. And to some bit of business, choking on debt, no room to borrow as Kenya reaches ceiling. This is a message from the Treasury CS, Jugun Ndungu, who says that Kenya has little wiggle room left for fresh borrowing, a situation that has been aggravated by the multiplicity of shocks to the economy. This is also a matter that the president over time spoke to, say that this government will really try to ensure they don't really go that route of borrowing. And you can remember that just before the election, Parliament, then the 12th Parliament raised the debt ceiling from 9 trillion to 10 trillion. But going by what the CS Treasury is saying is that now we have very little wiggle room to borrow as a country. Ray.
The front page splash is all about the Hustlers Fund that is going to be unveiled today by none other than President William Ruto there, and Cabinet Secretary in the docket of MSMEs, cooperatives and micro, small and medium enterprises. That is Simon Chelugui has already outlined how this William Ruto's administration is going to distribute the multi-billion shillings Hustler Fund. It is pegged at a maximum of so far what we know it is 50. That is how much you will be getting, a maximum, and that is if you are 18 and above, you can get up to excesses of 50,000 and a minimum of 500 shillings. But now it also has brought in a lot of debate with one economist who would want to just sample what they said in this daily is that if the borrowers were to be given the maximum of 50,000, which is highly unlikely, only 1 million Kenyans will benefit, and at best the fund will be competing with other financial options like Fuliza and other digital credit providers on the interest rate. This is charged an interest rate of 8%. So Patrick Mwinde, who is an economist, also wonders how the fund will fare where other initiatives have failed. We've had the Wezo funds, we have the youth and women funds and such. So what innovations, if any, does the Hustler Fund bring to the table that makes it truly transformative as it is marketed to be? We will be keeping tabs on the unveiling of the Hustler Fund, as well as remember its maximum seed capital is of 50 billion set aside by the National Treasury. It is not going to be a grant, unlike what was said during the campaign trail. This is a loan that is going to be paid up at an interest rate of 8%. Misappropriation of the fund or providing false documents while applying for this particular funds attracts a 10 million shillings fine. So that's just a sampling what we expect today during the unveiling of that particular fund that is expected to support small, micro industries, or rather enterprises across the country. Then yesterday, members of Parliament, that's the National Assembly on Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, JLAG, retreated to write a report after concluding the hearings of the petitions against the 4 IBC commissioners, that is Juliana Cherera, Justice Nyagaya, as well as Irene Masut and Wanderi there. And if the committee finds the petitions valid, they will recommend to the president to form a tribunal to investigate the 4 commissioners. We'll not forget what happened in the August polls there. And now this is where we find ourselves. That's the latest development there with the retreat to have this report, or rather recommendations, written, so to speak. That's just but a sneak peek of what has been given precedence in this particular issue of the Standard. Just to remind you that other details, and actually more details, are on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. We'll continue keeping tabs as well as what is happening across the world now, with new fears, or rather fake news, traveling so fast in regards to the spread of Ebola in neighboring Uganda. as well as keeping tabs at what is happening at Qatari, where we are having the global showpiece that is the World Cup. Now, it is the holidays, and there's a report here that indicates that Kenya is facing a condom shortage as the festive season and school holidays start. Now, demand for condoms stands at 460 million against the 150 million the government procures. And according to NASCOP, the government released 50 million condoms following the concerns from the civil society. Well, this is a report that has totally been fleshed out in this particular article, with the shortage having raised fears that the gains made in the prevention of new HIV infections will be rolled back, and also that Kenya is experiencing a steady rise of cases in sexually transmitted infections and new HIV infections, especially among the youth. This is according to NASCOP, as well as one of the doctors that has been mentioned in this particular is Dr. Samuel Kinyanjui, the country director of AIDS Healthcare Foundation, said the shortage was of almost 112 million condoms and is a cause for worry. Now, as you're talking about prevention, how about we talk about abstinence when it comes to the youth who happen to be, not of legal age, below the age of 18. That puts a cap on matters in the headlines. I'll leave in the able hands of my colleagues to take you through candid conversations right here on Good Morning Kenya. I am Regina Manyera, and I wish you a pleasant day ahead.
So before you go, Regina, many have qualified for the round of 16. US is here, England is here, and Senegal. Nobody expected Senegal to go through.
Well, Senegal was the only country giving Africans hope.
Yeah.
I was worried about their performance, given what they have been doing, but hey, they prove us, they proved themselves.
A comeback.
And that is good. That was a comeback. But did you watch the tears? Did you watch the tears in that stadium after the conclusion of that particular game? It was all tears. Ecuador players were on the field, on the ground, crying. Fans also were crying.
They did well. They had a lot of expectation, actually.
Yes, true.
And I believe somebody said, one of the football pundits said that African teams are somehow underrated at the World Football Arena, World Cup. And they keep on disappointing these so-called big teams.
Regina just rightfully put it when we were beginning these conversations earlier on, that you won't miss an African or someone from an African descent in any of this team. So there's an element of Africanism, if that is even English.
Let's say Africa is still playing Africa.
At the end
is
of
playing Africa
they're just some
at the World Cup.
Either way, we are still being represented.
But it was a bag of emotions, the tears. When you saw the Senegalese fans, I'm telling you, those fans are just they're something.
I mean,
the drumming was electric, the drumming, and I think that kind of support, if you played any sports, especially, in high school or even in campus, and your teammates and the cheering squad was there, you kind of feel like someone is in your corner, you have to do your best.
Support.
And I like that support. That support really came in through, because I also enjoyed the drumming myself, being that, we're pro-Africa and all this. I'm just happy that the Teranga Lions of Senegal finally roared yesterday. But now, let's talk about the host Qatar losing all their 3 matches. They are the hosts. They get to go home, though they're home.
They've broken the record.
Exactly.
the first host country to lose a match,
The first match that
all 3. Now, they are home, at home.
They are home at home.
Even if it's losing a match, like you don't see a host country losing a match, like it's first match. Matches you might lose momentarily, but ya kwanza, there's a way you just...
I mean, we would argue it out that the teams that made it to the World Cup performed pretty well in different leagues, their qualification stages, until they reach at that particular stage. So we would expect them to perform. We'd expect them to perform. Again, with Qatar, again, we would say that they're playing because they're the host. But
they did not do well.
No.
Since you're talking about football, do you know that Brazil is going to be taking on Cameroon on Friday? I think.
It will
And
be
Brazil is
mouth-watering.
your
That's
team,
our
eh?
hot match.
Yes. Mouth-watering.
Now, and Nima is going to be missing this particular game on account of an ankle injury. This is according to his doctor there. But a draw between Cameroon and Brazil is enough to have Brazil, who are this World Cup's favorite, sail through to the knockout stages. So Cameroon, if you watched how Cameroon played their last game, you would be very, very worried about their performance with Brazil.
If they leave their defense quite porous, then expect Mabao. Basically that.
But if you watch the last game for Cameroon, they held in the first half, then in the second half, goals were coming from left, right, and center. It's as if they just forgot they were playing or something. It became porous.
So it's just safe to say that Senegal is the only team that is holding Africans.
Cameroon is, I'm sorry, but Cameroon is going nowhere.
Okay, today we have Poland and Argentina. Messi is back. Saudi Arabia and Mexico, and then Australia, Denmark, and then there is this match between Tunisia and France.
You said Saudi Arabia and?
Saudi Arabia will tackle Mexico.
Okay.
All right. Australia will duel with Denmark, Tunisia, France, and then Poland, Argentina. I think Messi is quite determined to go forward.
But if the Argentinian...
Messi is determined.
I'm curious to hear what Regina had to say.
All right, Regina, go away. Take it away.
There's someone called Lewandowski.
Yes.
You know, and if Argentina continue playing the way they're playing, centering their game around Messi, they're going nowhere. I'm sorry. I have nothing against Messi, but I think they need to change their strategy. We have seen how they've played in the other games before. They man and they mark Messi, and it's a done deal.
I think this World Cup is like making us say, you know, this is not a one-man show. It's actually a consolidated effort. Much as there could be the best player in a team, but you really can't bank on one person. It's just coming together. That's why it's a team. You know, it's a team.
It's a team effort. And on matters Saudi, when they won last time, I believe that the Prince awarded all players a car. Was that, how true is that?
Well, Saudi Arabia. Well, we don't know.
I'm curious to get, you know, if
will
they'll
get
be
the
awarded
details.
again if they win this one.
I feel like where Saudi Arabia is that even if nothing happens after this, at least something did happen.
Yes.
But that's actually going to be a tough game. Saudi Arabia and Mexico, given how both teams have been playing in the group stages. But now the match to watch is Tunisia
and France. Yes.
Tunisia, well, we may not relate that personally. They are like African because they feel, and you know. But hey, we will be watching that game. We will be watching that game, and KBC Channel is going to be broadcasting that to you live. So the match is, let's predict. Victor, you're the one who asked for predictions. What do you think?
Okay, very quickly.
Australia, Denmark?
Australia, Denmark, let me go with Denmark. Tunisia and France, both teams going to score, but I see France making they are going to progress. Argentina, Poland, it's going to be a tough match, but I'm giving it to Argentina. Saudi Arabia, Mexico, a slim win, but I'm going with Saudi Arabia. Yes, I'm going with Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Australia and Denmark, of course, Denmark. Yes.
Do the rest of the ladies want to give their predictions?
I will only give for Saudi and Mexico. I would go with Saudi. And Argentina and Poland, Argentina.
I don't know why for Saudi and Mexico I'd go with Mexico. I'll just go with Mexico.
We'll see.
And Tunisia as well, and Argentina.
Wow.
Okay.
Let me be the devil's advocate in this. In the game between Poland and Argentina, I'm going with Poland. It's a done deal.
Okay.
I've seen Argentina play. If they're going to continue playing around Messi, it's a done deal. They can as well park their bus and leave Qatar. Anyway.
We recall tomorrow and see how all this would have turned out.
Yeah, but even as we talk that, Namamba says that he believes Arabe Stars can qualify for FIFA 2030.
Yeah, he did say
possible.
that.
Well, it's possible.
But if you follow the raft of measures he was trying to talk about, then you realize maybe with some cleanup.
Okay.
Let's clean up the house first before we start thinking about, you know, showing up at our neighbor's compound.
Okay, director says
we need to exit.
He's not a fan of football. Okay. Mato, Kata, tutarudi after this.
never make it without you. Could never make it without you. Could never make it without you. Make it without you.
Hayawi huwa kinyang'anyiro cha kombe la dunia nchini Qatar cha Nanga Novemba 20 hadi Disemba 18, huku timu 32 zikiwania taji. KBC Channel 1 inakupa fursa ya kutizama mbashara kipute hicho kutoka Qatar nyumbani kwako. Runinga ya KBC Channel 1 inakukaribisha kwenye kipindi cha Dunda Dunda Qatar.
Nakwambia kwamba baba, alama ya reli ni Dunda Dunda Qatar, na tunakuja nyumbani pale mtaani pale ambapo upo wewe mwenyewe,
huku ukijishindia zawadi chungu nzima.
Hapa kumejaa vitu kocho.
Jongea shabiki kwenye Dunda Dunda Qatar.
Ukitazama unashinda.
KBC Channel 1, wenzio wa dhati michezoni.
Today, I want to show them my attitude. Ya bwana, ni chuo kikuu cha burudani, mashavu.
Nyumbani kaumbea.
Burudani.
Twende tukacheze bango. Mama it takes two to tango.
Na interview kali kutoka Pwani.
Nakucheza nawe. Baby nimechizi nawe. Na ukitaka tuiwashe leo.
Bwana, kila siku ya Friday ama Ijumaa ukipenda, saa 3 hadi saa 6 kamili.
Fanya kama unacheza isoko.
Kumbuka hashtag Masha. Nyumbani kwa burudani. Usikose tegea show kali tokea
Exactly 22 minutes to the top of the hour. You're right in time for our first conversation of the day. We want to dig deeper to this Hustler Fund, which we are expecting it to be launched this basically today by the president. This is at the Green Park terminus. We are also expecting various leaders together with the cabinet secretary for small and medium enterprises, that is Simon Chelugui. And there's a lot of questions that Kenyans are asking about this particular fund, the issues of interest, the issues of the limit as well, together with so many other questions. And this is what we are set to unpack in the next like an hour or so. With my guest on set, I'm joined by Dr. Joseph Rotich, who is a political analyst. We shall also be joined via Zoom momentarily by Hamisi Mboga, who is a political as well as governance expert. Karibu to the program, Daktari.
Thank you, Masa. So my Doreen.
Yeah. So
I'm happy to hear that you are talking about the Hustler Fund.
You look like a proponent of this particular fund.
I am, but you see, there are things that we need to discuss, which are very pertinent, especially to do with the funds itself. Doreen, you can remember that as at the moment, we have several funds. We had Youth Enterprise Fund,
yes.
We had WESO Fund, we had Women Enterprise Fund, and so many other funds. Now that we are having what we call the Hustler Fund. And there are a lot of questions and answers when it comes to Hustler Fund, Doreen.
Yes.
You can remember the background under which this fund was founded.
Just hold it there, and we will come to all these other funds. You've talked about the Youth Fund, WESO Fund,
yes.
Women Enterprise Fund.
Yes.
In fact, the last time I left was that this particular fund was supposed to be collapsed into one, called it the Biashara Fund. You know, but let's just start from the onset. During the campaign trail, Dr. Ruto talked about it being zero interest. And I can tell you for sure many Kenyans were backing on that, so that then this would make it different from all these other funds that exist. But, you know, months or weeks later, he said that, where's ipatiwa pesa ya bure? This is money for loan. I mean, governments can't give you free money. And so 8% per year prorated. So just make me understand, and also for Kenyans to understand, the difference between what was talked about in public rallies as opposed to actually what you meet in government. And then you realize you can't quite run government like that.
I think, Doreen, the most important thing that we need to understand is that during politics, people can say anything. They can promise you heaven, if not heaven, it is somewhere under the sun. And when the reality dawns, like now, we must realize that we must look at what is it that we have, that we can offer. And in any case, when you talk of the hustler fund, where is the source? What is the source of this fund?
Okay.
Because we may be talking about that source that also has an interest.
Right.
We may be talking about a borrowed money from some place, which of course the government is yet to confide us to it. But the issue, Doreen, that was promised during the campaign, that this hustler fund is going to meet the interest, the aspirations of the lowest of our economy, to meet the people who have nothing completely, the starters who want to start a business. And Doreen, you must also bear in mind that we have already formal and informal financial institutions who are also offering funds almost at the same interest, because we get the cash, whatever, from, the cash transfer fund from the M-Pesa, from the commercial banks at almost the 8.75%. And now talking of an ways of fund at 8% is something that people have really come up, they have looked at it with a lot of eyebrows. Why is it that it is that much? And then again, the limit of the time frame when to pay this money is about, say, 2 months or so. I don't know whether that one is the true position. But in my own analysis, Doreen, the 8% interest rate is still on the higher side. And I would have expected that it was, if the fund was going to meet the need of the needy, the needs of the needy, the interest rate should have been collapsed to about 5%.
Okay.
That would have made a whole world of difference. Because look at the Waste Fund, Doreen. It was almost a 0% interest rate. But how many people benefit? How many people took that fund?
It is 0%.
Yes. So in this case, if people were fearing the Waste Fund to take just because it was to be repaid, and just because it was a loan, a soft loan, how about a loan that is offered at 8%?
I hear you.
So it is going to be a difficult task, and it may not really. I don't want to water down the real objective of the Waste Fund. But what I'm just asking, I'm asking the provocators of the same fund that the only way this fund can help the needy of the needy is when the interest rate is reduced to minimum. At least 5%. 8% is on the higher side, Doreen.
Thank you. I hear you. And I just want to bring Hamisi Mboga on this one, who is joining us via Zoom. Hamisi, if you can hear me, there's the issue of what is promised during campaign trail and actually coming to reality, just borrowing from what Dr. Rotich is talking about here. But then, what does this speak about our leaders? Because Kenyans are watching, Hamisi.
Thank you, Doreen. It's nice to be with you. I want to wish everybody well. And this Ways of Fund, this hustler fund, everybody was waiting for it. But we have a number of questions. Those of us who are reading between the lines, those of us are looking from economic point of view, and those of us who are looking at the policy issue, we have a number of questions to ask. The hustler fund, does it have age limit? Is it anybody who is a hustler like Hamisi and the rest, or is it for youth? Is it for women? And how many? The catchment in terms of the hustlers, I think we are many. How would it fit, and for how long? Somebody was talking about. In fact, I'm waiting to hear after the launch. When do you get it? Where do you get it from? When do you pay it back? What do you do so that you can be able to pay it back? People were talking about 7 days, 20 days. What do you do with it in that duration of time to be able to pay back and still continue with, if it is business? So yes, very good. And the other thing is like what my colleague has said, is about the interest rate. This one should be zero rate. It should be zero rate. I'm asking the president to exactly do what he said. This fund will be zero rated. So that if anything, if you want administration, then 2% is okay as far as the poverty index is considered. So why don't we put it, if we have to pay interest, why not 2%? Administration kind of, and also where does the money come? Do we borrow it from the government, which department, and from which institutions? And those institutions have their laws, have their procedures, and they have their costs. I'm looking at it so that the government can come clear with a clear policy, educate people who is supposed to get it, who will get it, when does he pay back? Is it to, if I get a fund today and I want to go to Kongoya market to buy something, and then my child is sick, do I go and buy medicine, or do I go and buy fruit to sell so that I can pay the back? There are so many security issues on the fund. So we're looking forward to it. I want to listen to the president very clearly. But then we're looking at how will the hustler know the details, the nitty-gritty of the fund? Who will qualify? I'm told you just have a code on your phone. How will it be controlled? Last month we saw people had stolen all the SIM cards and all the cell phones. Are we not giving these people a leeway to get all the funds? I think that basically on the plate, this is what is they are supposed to be.
Okay, I mean, clearly you can just speak from that. There's so many questions, then there is answers. But I want to just again pick your brains on something that you also equally touched on, and this is in respect to the operationalization of this particular fund. The launch date is obviously today. The product being launched particularly is the personal finance. So we are talking about the credit of the 500 to 50,000 Kenya shillings. That is what is being launched today. The interest rate, as we've talked about, is 8%. Per annum prorated, and the refund period of this particular one is 14 days. Let me just get your mind on this one, Hamisi. 14 days of returning of this particular product, the personal finance. We are talking about hustlers here. How practical is this, and how does this even make it different from the already existing funds in the market?
Thank you very much. These are the questions that those of us who have done some work. I went to Kongoya market and looked at the traders, the hustlers there, and looked at the process for them to get the product. They come and buy the product. Some of them go to sell outside the market. Some of them sell at the market. And sometimes the traders don't sell anything that day, and they have already bought the product. So I'm worried about what is it for. If it is to do business, then you have to get a fund, do the business, get your money, and then give back. That period is very short for any business person, especially the hustler level, the so-called hustler level at the low. And then sometimes the weather. Sometimes it's so hot, people don't come to the market. And I'm looking at that only hustler at that market, but there are so many hustlers doing the other things. If you're buying something to be able to cook and sell, it has its own challenges. And you may not be able to raise that money back in the 14 days. That is our worry. The process of getting that fund, sometimes conditionalities. You know, money is money. You cannot just be given money like what he said. Those conditionalities, sometimes in the bureaucracy of our government and of the government, the process may not be as fast as you think. When do you apply? When do you get? And what do you do? We prepared our mindset, when I get this money, I'll do this and this will happen. You know, there are a lot of assumptions in the process, and maybe I'm waiting for the policy. I'm looking for the launch report and also the policy that will guide us, and who is involved in the fund until I get it at Mombasa and I go to do the business that I want to do.
All right.
And the market, sometimes it's dry, you know. So I still have some questions on the amount of money, the return, and also the process itself.
I mean, just Dr. Rutich, listening to Hamisi speak there, as a governance and political expert, having so many questions than answers, you can just imagine the kind of questions that Kenyans equally have. But it looks like we are in agreement, I mean, both of you, so to speak, in the aspect of the 8% interest that it needs to come down, but also on the timelines and the time frame, 14 days for this particular product being launched today. Do you think it's something that also moving forward needs to be revised?
I think, Doreen, by all indication, the fund and the conditionalities must be refined. Because look at it, Doreen, the way I look at it, I look at it this way. We are talking about the hustlers. When I'm talking about the hustlers, the person who comes into my mind is Boda Boda. The person who comes into my mind is Mama Mboga. The person who comes into my mind is Mutu wa Mkokoteni. And you are talking about charging 8% that person.
And this is your definition.
Yes,
of
I'm just giving you the realities on the ground. Because whatever we are discussing, Doreen, we must look at our background. Who are these people we are targeting?
I mean, because also there was that question: how do you define a hustler? Who do you say is
my position today, Doreen? Let me refer to a hustler, a border man on the ground.
All right.
Let me refer to Mutu wa Mkokoteni. Let me refer to Mama Mboga. All these people who are actually on the ground. Because before we talk about the time frame, Doreen, we must look what type of business are they actually undertaking? Is it a business that takes a day or two to sell or buy and sell? Is it a business that takes how many weeks? Because if you are talking about the 14 days, the loan to mature for the repayment, it is like you are just giving me by this hand and you are taking by the other hand. That means if I don't have time to pay for fear of penalties, that means as soon as I receive, I'll return you your money.
And it hasn't
and it doesn't help. So in this case, I think the framers of these policies actually must relook at the whole idea. And when they are actually relooking at the whole idea, they must also look at the background they are talking about. Who are these people they are targeting? Is it possible to do, in the practical world, is it possible to do the business with this money? This is something that we must look into. And the fund is very important, Doreen. And if the fund is targeted to benefit the very low of the lowest of our economy, and then the time frame and the interest rates and the policies must be reframed so that it will actually suit into their needs. Otherwise, it will be a political gimmick.
There were also issues of pegging this particular fund through appropriation by Parliament. And the rimal question has been, has it really passed through Parliament, or is it just an act of regulation? And what is the space of Parliament in this particular fund?
I think this, Doreen, this thing has passed through a number of participation, and I believe, of course, that is not a big deal. If the government today want to do something,
you say it's not a big deal.
What I'm saying, Doreen, the Parliament as it is constituted as of today, they can do that just like a lightning light. Something like that. How many things have been passed within a short time? So long as it is not halted through the court proceed or court through or whatever, that thing will really pass through. I'm not fearing about whether it will go through through Parliament or not. What I'm fearing is the practicability of the whole project.
But honestly, Dr. Retich, can you really appropriate, and this is something new we should say, and can you really just appropriate a new fund without the input of Parliament?
There is no way, Doreen. What I'm saying, if they want to do so, of course they are launching today.
Okay.
The project has undergone a lot of participations. We have had a participation being
they were traversing the country.
Yes. And then in this case, of course, out of this participation, of course, the Parliament will just endorse. Because this is something that it has passed through the process as per the Constitution. And of course, you must know, Doreen, that there are so many funds that have passed through the Parliament, the Act of Parliament. We have the CDF as it is. It is a product of the Parliamentary Act. So in this case, this one, I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about the whole process is the practicability of the procedures that have actually put in place. And then, of course, bearing in mind the people we are targeting on the ground. Not unless, Doreen, we are targeting people who are already established in business. If you are targeting somebody who is already running a business, the 14 days to pay the loan, is not a big deal. The loan plus the interest. I believe even if the loan has been, if the interest rate is as high as it is now, I'm also believing that the time frame to pay the same should have been more than 2 weeks. It should be 2 months and above, or even 6 months. So in this case, that is what I was saying. If Wesopan, which was a free fund, could not be taken just because of the conditions that it also had, as meager as they were, how far is this one going to be functional if it is 8%?
Thank you.
That is my big question.
Thank you. I hear you. Hamisi, I also want to pick your brains on the same. Was this really supposed to be an act of Parliament or just regulations as is? And what is the place of Parliament in appropriating such a fund? Because, think about it. This is a new fund. It is something new. And it's just passing through a regulation without really Parliament's input at the end of the day.
Yes, so I told you, Doreen, from the beginning that there are quite a number of questions, legal questions, administrative questions, and even political questions that surround this idea. It's a very good idea, and I would wish that it is done properly so that it benefits more people So we have that angle of new project. We have that issue of making sure that the legal aspect has been taken care of in terms of legislation. But I also want to say, in a bigger project like this one, the way I think it may not be the way the president and other people think about it, but a bigger project like this, you need to have a pilot. I wish the president says we're launching today, we're doing a pilot for the next 3-4 months, because December is coming. If you give me the money today, it will be Christmas and also school fees in January. We have a pilot, kind of a sample from a number of counties that they receive these funds and say, how is the return? Because that will inform the even administrators that this is a best way. And then the things that we learn, we can come and say, how do we correct this one before it is sent to many people? Identification, who is going, if it is launched today, who is going to be identified as the recipient? Who are these involved? We have seen the procedures of the Kenyans. If you bring it to the local level, there will be local interests. Will the people get information, the right people get the information, or those people who are able will be able to get it? You look at low-cost housing. It is given to the lowest, and then those guys save it again, or they pass it again to those people who are able. So there's so many social, ethical, legislative, administrative questions that should be answered or should be looked at. Let it be launched, let it be piloted, and let's see what will happen. How about those other plans that are there? Are we combining all of them so that we have one system of funding the low? If I use the concept of my brother, the lowest of the low, of the Kenyans, the hustlers. I have a lot of questions, but it's a very good project. I don't know how we can be able to influence that. I'm more happy to pilot it immediately in a number of counties. Don't forget Mombasa when you are piloting it.
Okay, I hear you, Hamisi. I hear you, Hamisi Mboga. I mean, that's a very good, point you're raising there. That how about we pilot it first before we actually fully launched it out to the market? But I just want you to hold it there. I want to take a very quick breather at this point. We circle back with plenty more of this conversation, trying to understand and demystify just before the fund is launched. Time for that break. Stay with us.
Abantu ba Mintombi Yamole. Your favorite Ekegusi station, Minto FM, is now at your doorstep. Enjoy the hottest Kisi music, informative and entertaining shows, and reliable news only on Minto FM. Tune in to Minto FM on 91.7 FM in Nyamira, Kisii, and its environs. Minto FM in Nyamira.
Life cannot always be too serious.
Yeah, man, what's up, yeah? Hello?
We've got to take some time off and laugh, and laugh. And we tickle you down with lots of laughter.
That's why I'm saying I'm who is who. Huh?
With satire like no other.
Tell him to bring it on.
Dakajapa.
Welcome back to the program. We continue apace with our conversation. I have created FaceTime with Dr. Joseph Rotich, who is a political analyst, as well as Hamisi Boga, who is joining us via Zoom. He is a political as well as governance expert. Let's just pick it up from that particular note. And there's, very pertinent questions that both of you are raising. And, off the top of my head, I was just thinking that if these are experts, political experts, governance experts raising these questions, how about that Kenyan down there, as you call them, the Mamamboga, the border riders, who may not even be understanding, how it really works at the end of the day. But again, there's also a question that is really quite pertinent. That's the issue of where this money is coming from. Supplementary budget hasn't yet been passed. This one did feature in the 2021-2022 budget. So questions are coming out. Where is this money coming from? Because if you know where it's coming from, then you will know the sustainability of it at the end of the day. What would you have to say in respect to this? And was it envisaged?
I think, Doreen, this is something that was promised by the current government.
Yeah, during the campaign.
And where the money will come from is something that is best known to them, and I believe it is sustainable. And of course, how will it fail to be sustainable, Doreen, when it is charging 8% interest rate? Let us believe that.
So the interest will.
This is a money that I may call it a revolving fund.
Okay.
But revolving fund that you pay at an interest. So in this case, as my brother said about the issue of doing a pilot project first in the whole thing, but I'm not for that, Doreen.
Okay.
Because in this country we have had several funds. I've told you we had WESO fund, we had Youth Enterprise Fund, we had Women Enterprise Fund. All these funds have been operating in our system of economy, in our economy. So in this case, the best place, and even we have had Fulizas, we have had Mshwari, all these things. I believe if we were to benchmark with them, we were going to rate ourselves the lowest. If we were really to target the lowest of our economy, we were going to rate ourselves below Fuliza, below Mshwari, below all these characters in the financial market are actually charging, so that we can be able to be of help to our needy economy. Because when we say in fact, some of the commercial banks with this M-Pesa loan that they are actually operating, they even charge 8.5%, 8.75%. Some can charge even 8%. So what difference are we going to have with this hustler fund, with those which are already existing? And I believe the framers of this hustler fund should have actually come up with a way out, whereby they were going to provide a solution to the majority of those needy needy people, the Bambambokas. And then from there, the only way to be that they would have assisted them is to charge the lowest interest rate. I mean the lowest interest rate as compared to those which are in the market. So I believe the framers of the conditions of this hustler fund must go back to the drawing board, so that we can bring almost everybody on board. Those people we confessed about them, we bring them on board. When we say Mamamboga, we say Mamamboga who is going to have a 5% interest rate. When we say Boda, we say Boda who is going to have a 5% interest rate. So in this case, you are going to meet the bracket. You are going to net them all. In this case, Doreen, I'm foreseeing a situation whereby the real beneficiaries of this fund are the already established business people on the ground. Because they will get this fund, further their business, and they will pay there without feeling anything.
But part of the regulation says that, for businesses that have a turnover of less than 100 million, so then how would you say the biggest businesses would really be the beneficiaries?
When you say, Doreen, 100 million, how many people have a turnover of 100 million? I mean, how many Kenyans are in that bracket? There are very few.
Okay.
They are only the top level, I mean, the wholesalers, all those who have got higher turnovers in their sales. But when you look at our Mamamboka, who is hardly making 1,000 or 500 or 300 per day, these are the people that the hustler fund is actually targeting at. It's not targeting at, I mean, $1 million and a plans benefits. I mean, those who are, get profits of, $1.5 million or something like that per day. No, they are targeting the lowest. I mean, when you talk about these borders, how much are they getting per day? They are hardly 700 if they can save. And then they have also to pay their whole nitty-gritty. They remain with something like 400. And this is the person I'm talking about, Doreen. I'm not talking about wholesalers who are actually having a lot of money. I'm talking about that boda man. I'm talking about that mama mboga. I'm talking about mtu wa mkokoteni mwenye anapata kitu kama 300, 400, 700 per day. So these are the people we are targeting at. If the hustler fund is to function the way it was originally purposed. So in this case, what we need to do is to look into the interest rate, to look into the time frame. 14 days is too short.
For this particular
fund.
I hear you. Thank you. Hamisi, do you think that there were proper mechanisms put in place to ascertain for the eligibility of those who will be able to get this fund, particularly when you talk about those who have a turnover of less than 100 million? How do you even ascertain that this one who's applying indeed is eligible in that regard?
Yes, my view, like I said earlier, I think we need a time to look at all those things, all these issues, these questions that have been raised today and are being raised. I think they are all valid questions, and we have other issues that are coming in. Is it going to be run by the established financial institutions, or is it going to be, I heard there's a board that is going to be composed to be able to do, that board may even take more money than the money that the mamambogas and the bodas are getting, because administration of such a fund will require a lot of manpower, personnel. What is it going to be put to Safaricom so that the Safaricom can do it like Mshwari? Is it going to be put into banks so that when you go to your bank, so that we use the same personnel that are already existing? But what will be the cost of doing that? And what will be the cost if you establish a board to run this? And the moment we establish a board, we know ourselves in Kenya, a lot of things come into play. Then the identification of who gets from which area. Because people are now looking at the coverage. Is it covering the whole country? Is it covering a part of the community? So there are so many questions. Again, I'm coming to that concept that we need clarity, clarification, and we need time. I think we should go back to the drawing board, and also the best thing we can do is let it be launched, let it start, but somebody should really understand the processes, the cost, the issues that are coming to. Can people get money and then disappear? Because even if you have taken my ID number and my cell phone number, suppose I switch it off, well, how would you get your money back? Because if I see I've used the money and I can't pay, the best thing Kenyans do is they ignore. If they ignore the payment, what will happen? Because somebody else is waiting in the line to be able to get more and also to pay. So there are all logistics that issues that have to be considered. But I still repeat, the concept so good. I wish it was zero rated. Whoever is able, you identify those hustlers, give them the money, don't charge them anything these 6 months until next year. But even that issue is bad, because if you're giving me the money and I'm not being asked, payment is so difficult to do, especially financial payment. This fund is good, but let it be rethought. The process of where is this money coming from? The exchequer, and is it going to be audited? Because we know those issues that is it going to be another scandal? It's interesting, but let the president do his job. Let him encourage us. But I'm asking, can a team be formed? It's better to pay a team to look at the issue for some time to give us a report. Even when we're saying we are changing education system, people formed, the government formed a team to even scrutinize some of the ways. And I think that some of the reports are coming. In less than 3 months, we can be able to have a new report for the Hustler Fund.
I hear you. I mean, so many questions than there is answers. So today at Green Park, we'll just be holding forth to actually, see how all these questions will be unpacked. But you also talked about in the event that maybe someone disappears with the money or they don't pay. And also the previous funds have, experienced this. But also in the new regulations, there was a 1.5% increase in terms of that interest rate, so that anyone who defaults, then they end up paying 9.5% as opposed to 8%. Do you feel that this is much more stringent, perhaps, than it would make someone realize that if they borrow the fund or the money, then they need to just repay it. Hamisi?
No, after this long spell of Corona and the hardship that we have had this year, if I was in a position, say, don't touch anybody who has gotten the government money, because people have really been hit. Look at the landlords, they're pushing people out. So this is a bad period for anybody to pay back. But be as it may, let's start it, but let's look at those difficult questions like what you are raising. Those are all issues surrounding. And how much is the fund? You're going to go to each hustler. Is it the 500 we're, is it the 500 we're told? Is it the 15,000 or 20,000? How do you know this one can be given 15, the other one can be given 75? Is there criteria to say people with this kind of business will get it? I want to go back to the issue of boda. The way I know the experience we have here in Mombasa, the bodas don't belong. The tricycles don't belong to the boda themselves. There's a landlord who has bought 2, 4, 3, 4, 5 bikes, and he gives you one. In the evening, you bring back. So when you give the fund, are you giving the manager, the owner of the bike, or the rider? These are also questions. If you give the rider, in fact, he's just doing. Tomorrow, he can be removed from that business or from that work of riding. So if you look at the boda, majority don't own those bodas. They belong to other people. So whom are we funding if we say boda is also a hustler?
Okay. I'll come to you, Doctor.
I'm speaking loudly, clearly, so that we have a very big discuss.
All right.
As the fund is being launched, let's discuss these issues.
All right. And I'll come to you, Dr. Rotich, on the issue of region. But before I get there, I just want you to perhaps even clarify or maybe elucidate on that particular issue, which you've constantly talked about, Hamisi, that the Hustler Fund is good. You have constantly said that this is a good initiative. But I just want to pick your brains, perhaps, how you think maybe this is different from the previous funds. For instance, Wezo Fund was zero, or still is, zero interest. This one is talking about 8% interest. So in much as you're saying it's a good initiative, do you feel it's going to penetrate the market, given that we've had other funds which are zero interest rate?
I think according to...
Let me just get Hamisi's response on this one, because he has constantly said that this is a good project. Hamisi, what would you say in respect to this one?
Yes, I would say that do we have a report of the experience of the other funds? Because if we don't have a report, because those reports could inform this one. What was the performance of the Wezo Fund, the Youth Fund, all this? What were the challenges? Because there must have been some challenges.
Yeah.
Who can we get an idea who received those funds? Which area? Was it concentrated in towns or even in the villages where some of the really hustlers are? So if we get a report, because reports always inform people, and we learn. We itemize the successes and the challenges, and also a proposal of recommendations. So if we do that, then we can say coverage. One of the issues that we do in political science is coverage. What coverage did these other funds do? And is there a gap that we are filling? And if we're filling that gap, how and what? I look at all those questions when I'm doing a paper, and it may even stop you from moving. But I think let's move on while we are looking at. There is a challenge in terms of administration. Is it filling a gap? Are we not? Why don't we expand those other Wezo Fund? We make it so Wezo so that it can wezesha people. All these questions are coming. If the administration, was it so smooth? And my brother has been mentioning some of these things. I think let's go for it, but let's go for it with a lot of caution, with a lot of information. Can we get people advertise, publicize, involve people in discussion? This participation is also another governance concept that where people involved in terms of discussing about this. The idea can come from one person, but it should be use that idea to include other people so that other ideas can come in. So yes, this is a good fund, and let's do it.
Still maintains it's a good one, but says we should go for it with a lot of caution. So then one would ask, I mean, Uwezo 0% interest, why would I be going for Hustler Fund, which is 8% interest?
I think that is a big question that everybody is asking, Doreen. The question of availability, I'm not questioning about that. I believe it will be available because the whole thing looks commercial. It looks commercial.
That's what you read from
Yes,
this.
that is what I read. It looks commercial because of that attracting high interest rates at the level of 8%. Number two, when you talk about the time frame, it seems like the whole thing is targeting people who are already established. I mean, people who are running money, people who are running business. And because within a period of 14 days, Doreen, for somebody who is making a startup today, even before he gets to know what he wants to do or what business he would want to start up with, the time frame of paying back the loan is already there.
Because also there were concerns that then it's too little. In fact, I was just reading on the dailies today that an economist, that is Mohamed Welia, saying that this is really quite little, you know, with the 500 to 50,000.
Of course, to me, it is not little to a hustler. It is not little to a hustler because hustler cannot even go for 500,000. They may go for 30,000, 50,000, 80,000, 100,000. Hustlers work within the limit of about 300 to 500,000.
So then just allow me to butt in and perhaps make me understand, call me on this one. If you're saying that it's not too little, then how are you saying on the other hand that yes, it's not too little because a hustler cannot afford, you know, the 500,000. This is perhaps what they can really afford at the end of the day. But you've just say, what's this that you've said? There's something that you've just said in respect to it being commercialized, yes. That
The reason of...
those who are on the higher cadre, the ones who are being targeted.
Let me tell you, Doreen, when I talk about a commercial approach in terms of the interest rates.
All right.
Because when you go to the market, especially financial institutions, they are charging high interest rates. Commercial banks go 14% or go maybe 8%, 10%, 12%. And so many other informal and formal financial institutions. The way they are charging according to the market rates. I mean, according to the market availability. Like now, when you talk about the hustlers, the background of my hustler narrative, Doreen, is that man on the ground. I'm not talking about those people who are earning millions per day. I'm talking about that person who is earning hardly 1,000 per day. That is the person I'm talking about. And when you talk about, if we are really targeting that person and give him 15%, 20%, 30%, I mean not 30%, giving 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 or above. You see, you need to take the loan that you will accommodate within your business itself, because this is the money that you are going to pay back, Doreen. I'm not talking about this is not a grant. It is the money that you have to pay. So whatever amount that you are going to take, are you able to pay that money within that stipulated period of 2 weeks? So that is it. I mean, in fact, the timing is denying. I can tell you money is here, and then the time frame of paying is here. So you will not go for it because of the time frame that you are going to pay that loan. So this is something that even why my brother was talking about, there will be, are there regions who have been targeted for benefits? I mean, to benefit this fund. It is the whole nation. The whole nation is looking at the inauguration of the fund, and then every corner of this country will be expecting that fund. And of course, they will be able to get that fund. But that is not the big deal, Doreen. That is not the big problem that I'm seeing. My big problem is the usage and the time frame of this money. My problem is the high interest rate that is charged or condition that is put in this money. That is my concern. The moment that issue is addressed, because when I look back, I'm somebody who is informed, Doreen. I'm telling you about the Uwezo Fund, who was rated 0 interest rates. But how many people benefited? I'm talking about the Women Enterprise Fund. How many people benefited? I'm talking about the Youth Enterprise Fund. How many people benefited? They are more to do than giving out money. So my big really concern in the whole subject is that we must look at first the person we are targeting. Once we look at the person and the conditions of the person that we are targeting at, we shall be able to put this fund into a conducive way, or it has to be easy to access to the fund. It has to be within the capacity of the person who is taking the loan to pay within that stipulated time, and it has to be convenient. If it is not convenient, who will take it?
I mean,
if it is not, if it is so expensive, who will take it? So I mean, we need to. I think we need the framers of the whole subject must go back to the drawing board, rethink. In the context of this man that they are talking about, not unless we are talking about a different person, not a boda, not Mama Boga, not the boda, I mean the Mkokoteni man. But the moment we are targeting at those people, we must be able to realize, to reason together and say, how are we going to, benefit this man, the smallest man?
I hear you. You've just talked about convenience, and I'd want to extrapolate a bit further in respect to also what has been put in the regulations that, they'll provide a USSD, so it's going to be convenient in that regard. There's no bureaucracy, no lining, no nothing, just as such. But again, tying that to the issue of region, because we know there are areas where, and there are places in this country where even having a phone is a big problem, much as they said, both smartphones, kabambe, as long as you can, type that USSD. But the biggest question is, for those who are not tech savvy in those regions, have we, or do you think there's a proper mechanism, and if not, what would you recommend so that then this fund, the moment is launched, regardless of where you are in this country, regardless of region?
I think there are already established financial structures. Talk about cooperative societies. In the cooperative societies in most of the regions. Talk about other financing institutes that are already in place. Talk about the M-Pesa. The M-Pesa is a structure that is already on the ground. So the government
that sets a benchmark.
Yes. So what we are basically saying that if they are going to use the existing structures, it means that the fund will reach the lowest man in the village, because the Safaricom is there. You talk about other financial institutions like cooperative banks. You talk about, there are a lot. I'm not seeing the structures being a problem, because these guys are going to use the existing structures.
Existing structures is what will be used as
cooperative societies, Safaricoms, and all. That's why they are talking about the M-Pesa.
And also engaging telecommunication companies.
So, in fact, in this country, Doreen, let me tell you, as far as technology is concerned, I think we are quite advanced. These phones are almost everywhere in this republic, and the people are already trading using the phones. So it is not going to be a problem. Reaching out to the lowest man, it is actually very possible. The only problem that I'm foreseeing is actually the conditionalities that have been put in place for one to get these funds.
All right, I hear you. And as we begin to wind up, Hamisi, I'd also want to pick your brains on this particular one, which is a matter that happened, 2 days ago? The president, while in Tatu City, Ruiru, announced that his administration would advance 300 million of these funds to the Twiga Foods, which is an agri-tech company, so that then they can disburse it to their customers and suppliers. A matter that some Kenyans are raising questions with, because they say that this was not part of the original plan. What do you make of this? Just cutting 300 million, giving it to a particular company, then they're the ones who are advancing this money to customers and supplier. The amount in question is 300 million to this Twiga Foods company. What do you make of this?
These ideas are all good, but then we're introducing more people. When you introduce more people in the system like this one, especially a system where there's money exchange, then you're introducing more problems. In fact, some of us were thinking, instead of giving that Mama Mboga the funds direct to her cell phone or for the purpose of doing their business, why don't we fund the payment of fees and charges? Because these people are being, whether they sell today or not, they have to pay the fees and charges. Suppose we say, how many business people are there at the lowest level? How much do we charge them? And you tell counties, don't charge them. Tell us, give us the list of who are doing business, and we have paid for their license, so that they just wake up to do their business the way they do it. But those ideas. But the moment you introduce another administration into, or you focus on one company, one association, one cooperative, then you're already isolating so many. So the challenge of choice, the challenge of distribution, the challenge of why this institution, not us, will come in. And that is where the problem starts. When you touch money, money has issues in terms of saying, why not me? Why them and not us? Like what my brother said, we have not studied the coverage of these other funds. Were they covering the whole nation? Were they covering certain regions? Were they covering age group, the way covering the needy people. How do we find that needy? Two, not everybody in Kenya wants to do some business. Some people just cannot. Oh, we have to train them.
And also, how do you monitor that?
Training how to do that. Yes. This is the challenge. This is the challenge of saying, how do you give somebody today and they start business tomorrow? Do they have that business acumen? Is it in the? Are they getting the funds because are they doing the business because the funds is there, or they have also started doing the business? Like what my brother said, if those who are already in the business, we can assist them, we can lift them, we can raise them. But those who are not, let them give the fund and they do what they want to do, and the government should reform it as a welfare.
All right, I mean, we are really strapped for time, but there's really quite a lot we could have talked about, including also part of what is in that particular regulation, where they said that the administrative cost won't cost more than 3% of the appropriated amount. But because you're really out of time, I just want to pick your headline thoughts in respect to it being launched today, what you really expect. Hamisi, let me start with you on that one.
Yeah, we expect that the president will launch this program today, and we expect people's interest. People, when the president says the fund is here, people want the fund tomorrow. So how do we influence those people to the process this one? And if it delays, people say that the president launched it, but there's no money, and the noise can still come. I'm foreseeing that the president should be able to really convince us that we are launching today. It's not that tomorrow morning you get the fund, because there are some conditionalities that people must meet. So we are looking forward to that funding, and let it be distributed properly, so that people have a feeling that I'm part of it. I'm part of Kenya. I'm part of the fund. I'm part of, and then also, does it lift the hustler out of the hustlerness? Because I don't want people to stay hustlers. Yes.
Quite an interesting question there. But also,
maybe I stop there.
I hear you. Let me get also your headline thoughts, Dr. Retich. Issues of interest coming to the fore, that indeed when it's launched today, let it begin operating today. What would you say?
I think the government is already prepared for the launch, and then also prepared to give the funds. I don't think they will launch and then leave it just that way. The only challenge, Doreen, is that how many people will go for that loan depends entirely. It is something we have to wait and watch.
It's a wait and see.
Because if it is not attractive or making a big difference from the existing financial lenders, I think let us wait and see. Let us wait and see, because I don't want to over-speculate on the outcome. But one thing that I can tell you, Doreen, anything that is started at its inception, it is very ugly. But as we go along, it will be refined and refined and refined. I believe the fund has very good intention, and I believe it will finally meet the target of what the whole intention, which was all about. And my thinking is, I think they love to go too deep into the drawing board, and then as they test the waters, which I believe it is going to be murky, they'll refine the whole thing. Thank you so much, Doreen.
Thank you. And just as Miss is saying, let's believe that it's going to actually get the hustle out of the hustlerness at the end of the day. I have been speaking to Dr. Joseph Rotich, who is a political analyst, as well as Hamisi Mboga, who is a political and governance expert, who has been joining us via Zoom, of course, talking to us about their expectations, their recommendation. This is just as we await for this particular fund to be launched today by the president, that is in the CBD at Green Park today. So we really quite expect a lot, and that's just what they have been chiming into in respect to that. Good place to end this particular conversation, but Good Morning Kenya continues after this break. Stay with us.
hayawi huwa. Kinyang'anyiro cha kombe la dunia nchini Qatar chang'oananga Novemba 20 hadi Disemba 18, huku timu 32 zikiwania taji. KBC Channel 1 inakupa fursa ya kutizama mbashara kipute hicho kutoka Qatar nyumbani kwako. Runinga ya KBC Channel 1 inakukaribisha kwenye kipindi cha Dunda Dunda Qatar.
Nakwambia kwamba baba, alama ya reli ni Dunda Dunda Qatar, na tunakuja nyumbani pale mtaani pale ambapo upo wewe mwenyewe,
huku ukijishindia zawadi chungu nzima.
Hapa kumejaa vitu kocho kocho.
Jongea shabiki kwenye Dunda Dunda Qatar,
ukitazama unashinda.
KBC Channel 1, wenzio wa 30 michezoni.
That flag has stayed down, so Abu Bakar has got a chance to check things. He decides to get stylish. Will it count? No, it won't. I think he knew it will not count. The flag stayed down for a little while. I think he knew it. By the time he was trying to just, lift the ball over the goalkeeper without having to go for any powerful strike, he knew he was already offside. You and I always have a chance to look at it twice. He's already got a foot ahead there by the time the ball is being taken. And by the time he was touching the ball, well, the flag should have gone up. But it stays down here for a long while. Checking the goal that it's been given. And well then.
ilayska ummadda.
Welcome back. Moving away from matters Hustler Fund, we want to talk about the gender-based violence, this being the 6th day in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And this year's theme, according to the UN, is Unite to fight against gender-based violence on women and girls. And for that, today in Women at the Forefront, we have a lady who's interacted firsthand with some of the women who are in prison as as a result of gender-based violence. It started as gender-based violence and they ended up committing a crime and in prison. So we want to see how exactly does that happen? What leads to that? How can we prevent it? And I'm talking about Lucy Karamu, who's the founding director of Resilient Women Africa. Karibu sana, Lucy.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us about Resilient Women first before we get into matters of gender-based violence. We want to understand who is this Resilient Woman of Africa that you are fighting for?
Resilient Woman is a community organization that works with socially and economically challenged people in the community, mainly girls and women. And our focus is actually on women that are impacted by imprisonment, women that are impacted by gender-based violence, and girls that are impacted by harmful cultural practices. Yes, so we have a program for girls and boys. We also have a mentorship program for women that are transitioning prison, where we mentors, trained mentors support them through their journey of integration. And also recognizing that we do not want to firefight or deal with women when they have already gone to prison. Our teens program is a more proactive, takes a more proactive approach to deal with issues, to impact values in the boys and girls, so that they are taking a different approach to handling issues. If it's conflict, you know, the way of doing things, being respectful, being kind to one another, just taking different approaches to resolving conflicts so that they don't end up in juveniles or later in prison. Yeah.
Okay, and I want to understand, why exactly did you choose this road to rehabilitate ex-women convicts? Why? It's not the most popular thing to do, you know, in the society.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to do that?
I think two things. One is I had an encounter with a restorative justice when I did a course in conflict resolution in peace studies. And for me, it was it was like a light bulb moment of saying, there's something that I would want to do, because it resonated with what I believe as a person, what I believe as a Christian, and so practical, you know, a way to really demonstrate the love of Christ as a Christian for those that really, you know, believe in Christ. For me, it is such a practical way of bringing the people who have been impacted by imprisonment to back to the community, because we have been forgiven of our sins, you know. We would be in prison, many of us. We are out here by grace. We've done many things. And so when women and men come from prison, I think the best we can do is to support them to get back, realizing even some of the reasons they are actually in prison, the poverty-related issues, you know. There are women that are doing petty businesses like illicit brew, you know, to put food on the table for their children. I mean, it's not to say that's not a crime, because it's illegal, it's not acceptable by the government, but we are looking at what are the reasons, you know, things that can be prevented. If they had alternative sources of livelihoods, those women would actually not be in prison. And so I think it's looking at the fact that we are, they are our sisters, they are brothers and sisters. What they need is, you know, support to get back settled and be able to support their children. And so for me, it is more of what it is that I believe as a person, as a Christian, and the fact that restorative justice is such a practical way of, you know, restoring relationships. Yeah.
Okay. And you've mentioned that most of the women there, or at least some of the women, get into prison because of petty crimes, out of poverty, things that, you know, can be easily forgiven or solved, rather, if something is done to them. But what of other serious cases like murder? Have you encountered women who have, you know, gotten into prison out of murder and from a background of gender-based violence?
We have clients who have been in prison because of murder. And one of the approaches that we take when we meet the women in prison, because our first contact with the women is in prison, is not for us to ask, what did you do? We allow the story to evolve naturally, because we don't want to look like we are supporting you because you did a petty crime, and we are not supporting you because you did a major crime. You know, all of them are crimes, and I think the important thing is to be able to support them through the journey to reintegrate. So we have them, and currently we actually have two people, a man and a woman, in Kericho prison. One killed, the woman killed the husband because of infidelity issues, and they're in prison. The other one, the woman killed, the man killed the wife because of infidelity issues. And so where that started is, you know, the violence, you know, it could be verbal, it could be emotional, it could be, you know, physical, it could be sexual, you know, and in the end, you know, it gets to the extreme of having the, you know, the people, the partners kill each other, you know, and they end into prison. Yes.
Okay, but so now what the root cause you've said is violence. Can be violence.
Yes.
At least. So there is gender-based, it starts at home and then it gets to a place where they get to prison. It gets serious where someone dies because, you know, the situation got out of hand.
Yes.
So what needs to be done to prevent these women who go into prison because of killing their husband out of infidelity, or maybe out of one reason or the other, because they couldn't maybe find help out here and that's the only resolution that they saw?
I think that it's important that for women to know that they can share what it is that they are going through. And sometimes, I mean, we say that a problem shared is a problem halved. Sometimes people do not know there are others having the same experiences and they have gone through it and they have been able to resolve it in a way that did not, you know, really call for really extreme ways of handling the conflict. But for us, we are more proactive about this because we think that firefighting is not really going to help because, I mean, when we get to a point where, you know, there is violence in the family, there is separation or extreme, you know, partners killing each other, we are already like saying now we are dealing with it when it has happened. A resilient woman, yes.
We can prevent that before it happens. And that is part of the things that you do.
Yes, we can prevent that before it happens. And at really the very early age, you know, it is instilling values, because if I have not been taught ways of handling conflict in a different way, if I've not been taught that, you know, hitting somebody or, you know, or slapping someone is bad, I will grow with that kind of mentality. When I get into a relationship, whether it is, you know, a married relationship or that I know, and these are things that are picked from the family. All that I know is, I mean, if there is a conflict, I just slap you or hit you, you know, or do something violent, you know. And so for us, it is through the teens program that a Resilient Woman runs, we are training the boys and girls alternative ways of handling conflict. In the midst of the programs that we run, you will see a boy hit a girl, or a girl hit a boy, you know, or they say some vulgar words, you know, or some unkind words. And at that time, we know that has been picked from home or maybe from school. And what we are saying is, we are not training you to be fighters or soldiers, you know. We are training you to be useful people in the society. You can take alternative ways of resolving conflict. You can talk about this. You can probably report that to the teacher, you know. And also getting to the children to understand that the person actually that is hitting them or doing something wrong to them, the problem is actually not the person being hit. It's the person hitting is the one that has a problem. And so for them to really also be self-aware that there's nothing wrong with them now that somebody hits them or becomes violent, you know, verbally or whatever way they are violent, it is not with them. So self-awareness training and for them to just understand, no, there's a different way of resolving conflict, but also in a more sustainable way, because the link is not complete until we involve parents and teachers. Because if we are supporting children to be able to take alternative ways of handling conflict, and the teachers are left out, and what the children will hear from the parents is, you are silly, you are stupid, you can't make it in life. That's
cancels everything that you're teaching.
It cancels everything that we do. What about at home with parents? You cannot also amount to anything. Those are the words they are hearing. Or they see dad and mom just eating each other. And so bringing the three together, parents, teachers, and and the children, is a more sustainable way. And for us, we have brought the parents together to let them know we are building on this and we want you to do your role.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it is important to instill these values from when one is a child and let them grow up with this.
Yes.
But now would you say that the cases that we are seeing, because there's been a high number of GBV, especially last year during the COVID-19, the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. So would we blame this on the upbringing, of our men, because it's mostly the women who are affected? Could we blame that on the upbringing?
I think there's the aspect of upbringing, but there's also the economic factor. There's also the cultural factor. Because, when the socialization of, the way we have been socialized is to look at men as, you are the provider. And if you don't provide, it's like you're not man enough, And during COVID situation, like you mentioned, we know many people lost their jobs. Many people lost their livelihoods, There was a lot of struggle, and the fact that men would not provide, even women lost their jobs. So that strain brought about conflict. But you see, it also comes down to what do I do when I'm pressed? When the situation is not really good, how do I handle strong emotions when I'm under pressure as a person? How do I deal with this? I mean, if you go and get violent with your wife or your husband or your partner, that doesn't solve the situation. Doesn't help. But yes.
Can we blame that on toxic masculinity, because you were taught, as you've said, that you are the provider, and when there's a problem, you can't cry, you can't complain. So would that be a reason or an outlet for them to now commit the violence, because they have bottled it up, and the person that they can hit is you as a lady there, if you're the wife?
I mean, it's not justified. But that is the way we have been socialized. That is, you have the nearest target is the person next to you, is your wife, is your husband, I mean, the fact that you're finding yourself in that big, that space where you are like helpless, you cannot provide to the family. The nearest target is your wife or husband, but that's not justified. But there is an aspect of the culture, you know. As in, this person, my wife is there to be seen and not to be heard, And if I am angry, I'm justified to hit them,
And in some cultures, it's still okay, even till now, to hit a woman. You are there, you need to be corrected, So that's how they have it. You should be corrected, and the husband only beats you to correct you. And for the woman, they accept that because they don't know better.
Sadly, yes. There are some communities where hitting a woman is showing love. Sadly. And that is really a retrogressive, thinking, because I mean, there's nothing great about, there's nothing loving about hitting somebody, that you love. In the first place, your husband and wife, you go together because you loved each other. So there's a lot of awareness that needs to be created around violence of that kind.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing, you can't tell me that you love me because you're hitting me.
You're hitting me, yeah.
Yeah, because you love me or you're correcting me.
So how do we change those cultures? What's your perspective on that? How can we do something about it? Because they are deeply ingrained and it's hard to change it.
We begin instilling that the values and the attitudes and the beliefs when children are young.
Yeah.
And to point out the harmful cultural practices. Why would a child be taught that when your sister does something wrong, you hit them? But they are not told, the vice versa cannot happen. So it is giving the boys or men power and showing the girls that it's okay actually for my brother to hit me. Mm-hmm. So they need to be told right from the beginning there's nothing right about eating your sister. It is wrong. And to also bring out the aspect of who is a real man.
So exactly. I wanted to ask you that. Do we need to change the understanding of what it means to be a man in the African setup?
Yes, I think that needs to really be brought out, because a real man, girls should understand that is a one that protects them, is a one that respects them, is one that is kind to them, is a one that will go the extra mile to ensure that they are protected. And doing wrong things to them, including even sexual abuse, does not make them, real men. There's nothing right about that. And so girls need to understand that. But boys also need to be brought on board in these discussions, so that we are not just telling girls, you need to keep away boys, you need to, to protect yourself away from boys. Boys and girls need to be they need to be part of the conversation, because if you empower girls and you're telling them no abusing girls, sexual violence, rape, and all those things that boys will do to girls is wrong. You're telling the girls, and the boys are not they are not there to hear. Why is it even wrong? Because the culture tells them that. They'll continue to do that. So involvement of both boys and girls in these conversations is really, really important.
So you're saying it's not enough for a man to be just there and say, I don't support gender-based to say rather that they do not perform gender-based violence. They don't take part in gender-based violence. So they should take the extra mile and speak up against gender-based violence also.
Yes, exactly. That brings really a lot of value in the conversation, and also encouraging men that have experienced violence. The statistics show that 1 out of 3 women have experienced some form of violence in their lives, but we also have violence against men. 1 out of 4 have experienced violence in their lives. And so encouraging men to come out and talk about the experiences that they have had, and normalizing it, because in the discourse around gender-based violence, the focus is on women. Yeah, so normalize talking about gender-based violence relating to men.
On all sides?
On all sides, yes. Yeah.
And what about speaking about it? Statistics also have it that 40% of those that are victims of gender-based violence, or rather, it's actually less than 40% of women who experience violence seek help of any sort, meaning that the 60% actually remain silent. So I'm imagining that the rate of men is even higher, because it's hard for a man to say that I've experienced gender-based violence. So what do we do about the victims speaking up and not feeling victimized about it?
I think, like we've said, it's normalized talking about the experiences that both men and women have, the gender-based violence experiences that they have, but also bringing on board, having forums where men can actually share. They can share their stories and how it happened. They also working in partnership with the police. You know, I know when there are cases that are reported of, gender-based violence, sometimes they are really trivialized, and the victim is blamed. And mainly the girls and women are blamed. You are told, you ulijipeleka, to experience that kind of violence, You dress up inappropriately. And inappropriate dressing does not necessarily justify violence by men to girls. And so it is important to just have that an integrated approach. Yes, an integrated, so that we are not just focusing on we're not focusing on women and girls. We are focusing on both women, girls, and men. Okay. Yes, and creating forums where these boys and girls that have experienced violence, or men and women that have experienced violence, can actually have a safe space to be able to talk about it. Because you have experienced violence. For example, a boy has maybe been sodomized in the family, and the uncle that has done it tells them, if you're going to talk about this, tell anyone in the family, I'm gonna kill you. So empowering girls, knowing that to let them know that violence by anyone is not right.
It's wrong. And
you can have a safe space for you to talk about it, and nothing is going to happen to you. And then ensuring that the child has been protected against from this perpetrator.
Okay, so Lucy, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back to talk about these safe spaces, because where are these safe spaces? When you go to the police station, maybe you might find from other stories that they have been victimized there when you go. So where else do you go for, when you get from the police station, who else do you see after that? And there are cultures that don't even want you or allow you to go and report it to the police station. So what do you do from there when you're being affected by GBV, maybe in your marriage, and or maybe you've been sexually assaulted? What do you do after that without being left with the feeling of victimization? So let's take this short break, and then we'll be right back to continue with this conversation. Stick with us.
With Glovo, you have anything you want from your city in your hands. Kama unatamani ugali beef ama fried chicken, order Glovo ujaribu restaurant mpya. With Glovo, unaweza track order yako na kuongea na customer support, which is always available. Download the app and order anything you want from your city. We'll deliver.
Responsibility left for Kudus. Bounce there, chance here! Ghana taken the lead here against the run of play, and it is Muhammad Salisu. So Salisu puts the Black Stars in the lead here. However, some discussion that is happening each time when you see a referee in the spotlight, then VAR may just kick in. Not what many the Black Stars fans will be hoping. Maybe an issue of the handball there on Captain Ayu. He's really afraid then. Okay, so goal stands.
That's good. That's good.
And Salisu really calling for concentration. So
Where party today? I want to show them my attitude today. Bwana, ni chuo kikuu cha burudani, mashavu.
Nyumbani kaumbea.
Burudani.
Twende tukacheze bango. Mama it takes two to tango.
Na interview kali kutoka Pwani.
Bwana, kila siku ya Friday ama Ijumaa ukipenda saa 3 hadi saa 6 kamili. Lafanya kama unacheza isoko.
Kumbuka hashtag Masha. Nyumbani kwa burudani. Usikose tegea show kali tokea pande za Pwani.
FM ilayska umada.
Welcome back. This is still Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for staying with us. We continue with the conversation on gender-based violence. And for that, we have Lucy Karambu to talk us through this because she has had experience with people or women who have experienced gender-based violence and one or the other found themselves in prison, and she's trying to reintegrate them back into the society after they have served their term in prison. So before we went to the break, we were talking about creating the safe space for the victims of gender-based violence. So Lucy, you're telling us about some of these spaces. How do you find such spaces when everything is trying to silence you? Culture tells you, or your family, because of culture, tells you shouldn't report on this because you won't find a husband. That is mostly in the rural setup, because you won't find a husband. So especially for victims of rape. And for those that live in the urban setup and you know that you can go to a police station, you go there, but you don't really get the attention that you want or the reception that you would wish for. In fact, you are victimized for it. But I believe that there's some changes that are taking place now, even with the CS for Gender actively speaking against gender-based violence. So what do you think? What are some of these safe spaces?
Before I talk about safe spaces, I just wanted to point out what the aspect of culture, of silencing. I think some aspect of culture encourages us to just sweep things under the carpet and not, talk about things, and there is nothing. There's nothing right about that. So the first thing is empowering the girls or the women to be able to talk about, to just let them know that they can speak about what it is that they are going through, and directing them to resources like lines, that counseling or phone numbers that they can call to organizations like like Nairobi Women's Hospital has got a gender-based violence arm that support a lot of women that are impacted by gender-based violence and many sexual violence. So there are spaces, and we also have other organizations besides the hospital that have that support people who are impacted by gender-based violence. So the beginning is to create awareness and to speak about it, to share information about what's happening and the resources that are available for the people who have been impacted by gender-based violence. Okay. Yes.
And would you say that social media is one of these spaces? How effective is social media in the fight against GBV?
I think it is. It is, because I think we've seen a lot of issues highlighted through social media. Where a woman has been battered. They have been beaten, almost to really death, and some of them have been killed, and that has been through social media. So social media is a really, really powerful tool. I think it is good to really be able to verify the information that is being shared, and to also know that it is important to have the people who have been affected, protected, especially if they are children. I think the aspect of protection is important, but the social media is really a powerful tool to use to highlight the plight of women and girls.
Okay.
Yes.
And what about social media and victimization also on social media? Because it's easy. Because I had a story of a victim of gender-based violence who, after some years, around 2 years, was now speaking about her experience and speaking against GBV, and people were asking her, what is the evidence, you know? Why are you only telling of it now? Why didn't you report your case then? So what about that? What should we do as people who are in the social media space?
I think it's important to understand that we come from a point of being disempowered to a point of being empowered. And growth for everyone is a journey. We know girls and women who are really quiet with something, but the conversation is happening. They are being enlightened, and at a point they know, I am afraid now, but I know a time is coming when I'm going to really talk about this. So there's we come from a place of being disempowered to a place of being empowered. And you know also there's an aspect of where people are really dependent on their partners, you know, and some people are really afraid of saying, I just want to leave. Some will say, I will remain because of my children, you know. And so once there is empowerment in terms of being able to support their own needs, they're not going to stay. So at that time might be the right time for them to talk about it. And I'm not saying if you do not have a source of income, you stay in the relationship, you know, a violent relationship. But I'm saying we come from a point of being disempowered to a point of being empowered, and that's the right time that, you know, many people will talk about the experiences that they have had.
Okay, so it's a matter of using the social media in the right manner.
Yes, and the people listening, they also, I think it's also lack of awareness. The response and the backlash that comes on people who have shared their stories, people do not really know. There are people, and there's a mindset, the cultural mindset of, you know, why are you even talking about this on social media, you know? It's so embarrassing to us, it's embarrassing to the family. But what is good about being battered and remaining in a violent relationship that would many times would even lead to death? So there is lack of sensitization and awareness about the issues by many people, and so that explains the backlash that people would experience here.
All right. And moving to what you do, you deal in restorative justice instead of the other type of retributive justice. Yes. So have you had cases, because you have also interacted with men who are from prison, integrating them back into the society, have you had cases of men, or even on the other side of women, who are not victims, perpetrators of gender-based violence, and are actually now you know, repentant about it, and they want to change, and they want to now speak against it and help the others in the society?
Yes, experience. We have clients that got into prison because of you know, violence against their partners, and, you know, assault, and, you know, and sexual violence, you know, rape, and when they come out, they talk about it, and it is for them a point to learn. And one of the conversations that we had with one of our clients from Nakuru is she said that one of the things I want to do with my experience is to be able to go to schools, you know, and let children know that crime can actually take you to jail, and you can prevent it. You know, so there are many clients that have come out, and they are using their experiences positively. It's transforming their you know, their pain into, you know, something more valuable and more useful to the society.
Okay, and from the stories that they share on matters gender-based violence that they committed, what is the underlying factor? What is the cause? What was going through their mind when they were committing such heinous acts?
Many of them would say, I wish I knew, you know, I wish I knew better. there is the aspect of culture, you know, of you are by really instilling this kind of pain or you know, taking, I mean, being violent in certain ways is makes you a real person, a man, you know. Others, it is experiences in childhood where the best way they learned about doing things is being violent. They saw their mothers do that. They saw their fathers do that. They saw the way of resolving conflict. It is fighting in the family, and so that was carried forward, you know, and including even the kind of the nature of relationship that our parents have between each other, you know, lack of respect to each other, you know, like being, you know, a strong person and hitting someone and being sexually you know, assaulting sexually, it's making somebody a real man, you know. And the knowledge or the kind of attitude around, you know, if I sleep with the girl, you know, that really makes me a man, you know, that needs to be really there needs to be a lot of sensitization around that, and for the boys to know that is actually disrespectful. It's wrong. That is wrong. It doesn't. There's nothing manly about assaulting a girl, you know, sexually. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and let us now go to the children, the effects that it has on children as they grow up, because you've said it's usually from a background of how you are raised, and you gave the recent case that you're dealing with of a woman who actually was the one who killed the husband in sight, with the child on sight, you know?
Yes, the child was actually present.
This.
Yes.
So what will that do to such a child in such cases?
The impact on this child is massive. It is beyond imagination, because the child is held up. It's actually in between two people. They love their father, they love their mother.
And you've just seen your mother killing your father.
You've seen your father kill, you know, your mother kill your father, your father kill your mother, because those are two recent cases where we have a man and a woman in prison having killed their partners because of the infidelity, cases of infidelity. And that to a child is traumatizing. It has a long-term impact on them. They will not even believe in relationships, for one. It will take a lot of work for them to really know, I can actually, you know, get into a relationship with a girl or a boy, and we can get married and live together, you know, without fighting. That's really, it's something that really has to take a lot of work. But besides that, the child is actually, in this specific case where the woman killed the husband, there are 3 children who have been left. And their fallback position, or the support they have, the immediate support, is their grandmother, who is alcoholic. So these children are totally exposed. They have no one to take care of them.
Everything about their life has just
has changed all of a sudden.
Drastically.
It is, I don't know, it's really painful. It is, it just tells us why it is important to, you know, to stop gender-based violence. Not just because of the partner's issues or husband and wife. The children really suffer. Their life is totally affected. Their relationships is affected. Their interactions with others is affected. Their self-esteem is affected. Their academic work is affected. The total life of a child is really affected, you know? Yeah, because now they are dealing with fear. You know, they are like, oh, my dad has gone. Now my mom is in prison.
My grandma is not
an alcoholic, so who is protecting me?
So
it's really, it just gets to us to just say we are not focused. This conversation should actually not be just violence against women and girls. It is, what does violence against women girls and men do to children.
On children,
you know? Yes, because the total, the aftermath is, or the result, the consequences is directly impacting on children.
On children.
Yes.
And we can see a cycle from, I believe that's when the cycle now picks up, because this is what you saw and that's the only thing you know. So the cycle continues. So unless something is done, we can we'll be talking about the same thing.
Unless something is done, and I don't believe it is really hopeless, because I know there are people, there are children who have come from very violent families and very abusive, where their parents, you know, just told them you're not going to amount to anything, and their self-esteem was affected. But through programs like what Resilient Woman is doing and other organizations supporting them through mentorship, it is possible to change. It is possible to really have their path of life change, and because they will be exposed to mentors, they'll be exposed to people who have gone through the same journeys and they have succeeded. So I don't think it's totally hopeless, but there is a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
Yes.
And what type of mentorship, as we come to a close on this, what type of mentorship do the children go through, children that have this type of trauma?
We begin by wanting to know what it felt like to have their mom and dad in prison, because we want to hear their story. We want to hear what do they even feel about what happened, so that then we begin the journey from there. So our mentorship is around just letting them know, to be able to come to terms with it, but also to know they have a support system. We are there. We are there as their mentors. They have other resources in the community. You know, they have pastors. They have community leaders. They have aunties. You know, and just remaining in touch with them. We recognize that because Resilient Woman supports children impacted by imprisonment with education sponsorship, it is not enough to just sponsor the children. Because these children are social beings, they're emotional, they're psychosocial, they're spiritual, and so the other aspect of their lives need to be really supported. And so we take an approach of looking at their spiritual life, their personal life, their academic life, every aspect of the child, so that we are not just looking at a child as an academic object. Because you can have a guru, who is really totally broken.
Psychologically, they're
they're totally broken. And so we want to really put that aside a bit, say we are supporting that, and that's good enough, but we also want to look at the other aspect of the child, so that this child is equipped for life and be able to deal with the experiences that they have had, to look forward with hope, to just know that bad things happen, but I can make it because other people that I'm interacting with have made it.
And that they're not their parents.
Yes, and then also to know that they are not to blame for what happened, and they can take a different approach to resolving conflict.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you get them to, do you mend their relationship with that parent? For instance, in this case where the mother committed murder against their father, do you help them in that relationship?
Interestingly, this boy that witnessed the mom kill the dad, our mentors and coordinators on the ground, they organized for them to go see the mom in prison, and he went.
How was it?
Emotional, because I think he's doing it from, I love my mom, I love my dad. And so he's torn in between. But just getting to know that has happened, but there's still a tomorrow for them, and things can actually change. And they are not to blame for what happened, because many times what happens is children say, are now they find themselves in between and saying, if probably I am the one that caused this to happen. So it is just encouraging them to take a different way of resolving conflicts, supporting them and counseling them, because the experience of seeing your dad killed, it is traumatizing.
It can be traumatizing.
Yes.
And okay, so why do you do this? As we come to a close again, why do you do this? What fuels your passion?
Because I think that I have a space, and that space can only be filled by me. And they say that, you know, if you want, you occupy, every one of us can occupy their space to see the change that we want in the world. I think I love seeing people's situations change. I mean, it's such a joy to see a family that has been impacted by imprisonment coming back together again, children beginning to go to school, beginning to live together with their parents, you know, and the women reintegrating into the society, getting social networks, beginning to really go to church, join chamas, you know, and begin to really thrive again.
Wow.
I think for me that is really exciting.
That is very noble of you to do, and we're celebrating you today in Women at the Forefront. Finally,
thank you so
what
much.
change do you want to see in matters gender-based violence? And as you close, you can give us your social handles.
What changes do I want to see in matters gender-based violence? I think one is to talk more about it, and to normalize talking about the experiences, the violence that we experience at the family level, but focus on the experiences of men and bringing men and women on, men and boys on board in the conversation, because we are not going anywhere until we sensitize men and boys. Because we need to understand what is in their mind. Why would a boy go raping a girl? Why would, you know, a man go hitting a woman in, you know? So getting their mind is part of the conversation to be able to shape the programs that we are doing. Okay. Yeah, and to get to us, Resilient WOA is our Twitter handle. Our Facebook is Resilient Woman of Africa. And in LinkedIn, Resilient Woman.
Thank you very much, Lucy, for gracing us in this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I really appreciate you having me.
Welcome. That has been Lucy Karambu, the founding director of Resilient Woman, talking to us on how we can help in this fight of gender-based violence from the experience she has had with the women and men who have been in prison out of one of these reasons, gender-based violence. That has been a great conversation there. Thank you for staying with us. Good Morning Kenya comes to an end at this particular point. My name is Stephanie Yata, and on behalf of the team, we wish you a great day ahead. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Hayawi huwa kinyang'anyiro cha kombe la dunia nchini Qatar cha Nanga Novemba 20 hadi Disemba 18, huku timu 32 zikiwania taji. KBC Channel 1 inakupa fursa ya kutizama mbashara kipute hicho kutoka Qatar nyumbani kwako. Runinga ya KBC Channel 1 inakukaribisha kwenye kipindi cha Dunda Dunda Qatar.
Na kuambia kwamba baba, alama ya reli ni Dunda Dunda Qatar, na tunakuja nyumbani pale mtaani pale ambapo upo wewe mwenyewe,
huku ukijishindia zawadi chungu nzima.
Hapa kumejaa vitu kocho kocho.
Jongea shabiki kwenye Dunda Dunda Qatar,
ukitazama unashinda.
KBC Channel 1, wenzio wa dhati michezoni.
Make transactions anywhere in the world with the NCBA Visa card and stand a chance to win big. Join the FIFA World Cup 2022 when you win an all-expenses-paid trip for you and your +1 to watch 2 games. Or win exciting weekly prizes that will make your FIFA viewing experience super duper. All it takes is a swipe or a tap to pay 2,000 Kenya shillings or more with your NCBA Visa debit or credit card. The more you swipe or tap to pay, the higher your chances of winning with 1 point for every 2,000 Kenya shillings spent. Don't miss out. NCBA. Go for it.